Welcome to my channel. Like and subscribe for more videos. American Comics, Level 5 Mutants start with Gojo Satoru. Chapter 61 Reverse Invasion of the Chitauri. On the top floor of Stark, a portal opened and Tony Stark walked out of the portal. At this time, he was wearing a strange red and gold armor. Unlike the previous armor, the armor was engraved with dense magic runes and emitted strong magic fluctuations. During this period, Tony Stark obviously combined magic and technology very well. At this time, he was wearing a new version of the magic armor Mark 7. Walking out of the portal, Tony Stark immediately saw the strange-looking Captain America and the Hulk and others, as well as the portal in the sky. Looking at the huge portal slowly forming in the sky, Tony Stark immediately realized something and understood what shocking things Seo-mu had done during this period. He actually wanted to open the portal to attract other forces in the universe to invade the Earth. He hurriedly said to Seo-mu, "Seo-mu, close the portal quickly. If the portal is opened, alien forces will invade the Earth, which is definitely a huge disaster for New York. If the portal is opened, although the aliens invading the Earth will definitely be annihilated by various forces on the Earth, the alien creatures that break into the Earth will definitely cause great damage to New York. Ordinary people will definitely suffer heavy casualties. Tony Stark is kind by nature, and he never wants to see this happen." Facing Tony's advice, Seo-mu was unmoved. He just patted Tony on the shoulder, and then said with a profound voice, "Tony, you are also the next Supreme Sorcerer, you should have a long-term vision. Now that we open the portal, it is not their invasion of us, but the beginning of the Earth's domination of the entire universe." Before Tony could digest the information contained in this sentence, Seo-mu took a step forward and came to the slowly opening portal. At this time, a large number of Chitauri soldiers had rushed towards the portal. After seeing Seo-mu suddenly appear, they were first slightly stunned, then showed a cruel smile, and said to their companions beside them, "An Earth human, kill him. Domination of the Earth will start from him." Seo-mu naturally did not understand the language of the Chitauri, but he could easily know their thoughts from the excited howling of the Chitauri soldiers. He also smiled at the Zeta'i soldiers. The next moment, terrifying black-red lightning was generated around him, and then gathered at the top of his index finger. Seo-mu stretched his index finger to the huge portal in the sky. The terrifying black-red singularity on the top of his finger quickly condensed. In the blink of an eye, a black-red singularity the size of a person was formed, and then flew out suddenly. The strong sonic boom shattered the glass several kilometers nearby. Half of the bodies of the Zeta'i soldiers had just passed through the portal, and before they completely entered the Earth, they were hit by the terrifying black-red singularity. Faced with the huge repulsive force, their bodies, mounts, and guns in their hands shattered at the same time and turned into powder. The black-red singularity destroyed everything along the way and killed all the reunited Zeta'i soldiers. The hazy blood mist filled the universe, and the first wave of attacks by the Chitauri Legion was wiped out in one blow. After entering the universe, the black-red singularity did not stop, but continued to move forward rapidly. The commander on the Chitauri spaceship in the rear saw this scene and immediately said to the soldiers beside him, "Quick, quick, attack, don't let that weird thing hit the mothership." The Chitauri mothership simultaneously fired a large number of energy rays, hitting the black and red singularity. Facing so many energy rays, the speed of the black and red singularity was obviously slowed down, but it still broke through layers of interception and accurately hit the hull of the Chitauri spaceship. P.S. Chitauri spaceship. The commander in the command room only heard a huge crash, followed by the sound of steel tearing, and then he saw a huge red warning symbol appear in the center of the spaceship status projection in front of him. Just one attack broke through their defense and caused huge damage to their mothership. Isn't this a backward planet? Where do they get this level of technology? At this moment, the deputy commander on the side reported to him. "Commander, an Earthling flew out of the portal." The commander immediately looked at the portal, and then saw a white-haired, blue-eyed earthling slowly flying out of the portal. As a cowardly earthling, he ignored all kinds of deadly radiation in the universe, ignored the expanding air in his body, ignored the severe cold in the universe, ignored the mutilated bodies of other Zeta soldiers around him, and then showed them a hideous smile. This picture reminded the commander of a rumor that has been circulating in the universe in recent years. The Earth is a very scary planet, there are many terrifying existences there, and even the now famous Captain Marvel is from the Earth. At first, he didn't want to believe this rumor at all. How could a cowardly Earthling like Captain Marvel be born? But when he saw the white-haired Earthling in front of him, he began to believe it. At this moment, a soldier beside him suddenly reported to him. "Commander, we detected extremely powerful energy fluctuations from that Earthling. The attack just now seemed to be released by him." "What?" "Walk out of the portal and come to the vacuum environment of the universe. Level 4 energy absorption continuously absorbs the surrounding cosmic radiation and strengthens Seo-Mu's body. The reversal technique constantly repairs his body, allowing him to survive even if he loses oxygen. Unconsciously, Seo-Mu has reached the point where he can survive in the universe with his physical body." He looked at the Chitauri spaceship in front of him, held the communicator beside his ear, and ordered Captain America and others. "Charge!" Boom boom boom. Just after Seo-Mu gave the order, a spaceship flew out from behind him, carrying several heroes from the original Avengers. At this time, they were symbiotic with the symbiote and rushed towards the Chitauri mothership at a high speed. "Quick, quick, intercept them, don't let them get close to the mothership." The commander immediately issued an order. He had a hunch that as long as the spaceship got close to them, something extremely bad would definitely happen. Dense energy rays shot towards the spaceship. Just when the commander thought he was going to destroy the spaceship, he suddenly found that the energy approaching the spaceship was actually absorbed by the white-haired Earthling standing on top of it, and could not hurt them at all. The next moment, the spaceship crashed into the Chitauri mothership, and then several symbiotes of different shapes tore through the armor of the space shuttle and walked out from the inside. And behind them was the terrifying white-haired Earthling. Chapter 62 Reversal Technique Level 3. Tony Stark stared in amazement as Seo-Mu and the spaceship crashed into the strange mothership in the distance. He initially thought that Seo-Mu opened the portal for fun, which was consistent with his impression of Seo-Mu, but he didn't expect that Seo-Mu's fun was even greater than he imagined. He actually directly invaded in the opposite direction and launched an attack on the cosmic forces. Although Tony Stark was a kind person, he had no kind thoughts about invaders who were not of his own race, so he whispered to himself. "Not bad." Then he also flew into the universe. At this time, Tony Stark learned about the many forces in the universe from Kamar-Taj, so he had considered the possibility of fighting in the universe very early. At this time, his latest Mark 7 combined with magic could fight in the universe for a long time. When Tony Stark arrived at the Chitauri mothership, the battle here had reached its climax. After symbiotic with the symbiote, Captain America and others gained some of the power of the Hulk. Facing the Chitauri who were holding energy guns and shooting at them continuously, they rushed over suddenly, and each attack could tear a Chitauri to pieces. Among them, the most outstanding one was Hulk. The riot that symbiotic with him absorbed the talent of Loki Frost Giant, and each attack at this time contained frost characteristics. The physical fitness of the Hulk plus the frost ability of the Frost Giant, the Hulk was undoubtedly greatly enhanced. Facing such a ferocious beast, the Chitauri soldiers shot at the Hulk frantically, but those energy rays could only hurt a layer of symbiote on his body after hitting the Hulk's body, and could not cause any damage to his own body. They could only watch the Hulk rush over and tear them to pieces. Although the Hulk was enough to scare the Chitauri, the one who frightened them the most was the white-haired Earthling at the end. He was obviously the leader of this group of Earthlings, and he was also the most powerful one. Unlike the Hulk, the energy rays shot at him were not resisted by force, but absorbed by him, constantly increasing his strength. In addition, even on the battlefield, he was not stained with a trace of dust. All smoke and blood were repelled from his body, and then could not move forward. What is more terrifying is that he never actively attacks, but when the Chidori soldiers approached him within 5 meters, they would be cut into pieces by invisible slashes, and even the whole body could not be left. The 5-meter reversal around this earthling was like an invisible black hole, constantly devouring the lives of all those who approached. He was far more frightening to the Chidori than the Hulk. When Tony Stark came, he saw the scene in front of him. When the Chidori faced Su-mu, they were slaughtered crazily. Obviously, they were the invaders and powerful hunters, but at this time they became prey and had no power to resist. Tony Stark looked at the strange sticky creatures on Captain America and others, and asked Su-mu, "What are Captain America and others like? It seems to be some kind of creature." Su-mu walked on the battlefield, just like walking on the most beautiful cherry blossom path, careless and extremely comfortable. The attacks from the Chidori could not hurt him at all. At this time, he heard Tony Stark's question, and he explained. Symbiotes, symbiosis with the host can copy the host's abilities and enhance the host's physique. Do they have consciousness? Looking at the several symbiotes in front of him, Tony Stark immediately discovered that this symbiote actually has strong intelligence. Yes, give you one? I have mastered the birth method of symbiotes at this time. Although it cannot be mass-produced, it is still easy to provide you with a few. Tony Stark looked at the symbiotes in front of him curiously, and nodded when he heard Su-mu's words. Thank you, I think I can find inspiration for nanotechnology from them. In the mothership control room, the commander looked at the Earthlings who were getting closer and closer to them in the radar projection, with a look of fear on his face. He really couldn't figure it out. It was obviously a planet with low civilization now. Why did it suddenly develop to such a point? He asked the soldier beside him, "Do you know the identity of the white-haired Earthling?" The soldier immediately replied. We learned from the database of the Earth network that the name of the Earthling is Su-mu, a level 5 mutant. He has extremely powerful power, I even suspect. Why did you stop? Keep talking. The soldier trembled and said. I even suspect that he is stronger than Lord Thanos. The commander suddenly turned his head and looked at the soldier who had just spoken. What did you just say? The soldier was frightened by the commander's ferocious expression and even stuttered. I suspect he is more powerful than Lord Thanos. I found in the database of an organization called SHIELD on Earth that a powerful warrior of the Eternal Clan, who was the same as Lord Thanos, died at the hands of Su-mu, and it was a crushing victory for the Earthling named Su-mu. The commander stopped talking. He finally understood what kind of monster he was going to face. This was a war doomed to fail. He immediately said to the soldiers, "Notify Lord Thanos and ask them for support quickly." Yes. On a planet where half of the creatures were slaughtered, the flames of war continued to burn, but as time passed, even the most vigorous flames were almost extinguished. In a camp, Ebony Maw received a message from his men that the Chidori sent them a distress signal and claimed that there were extremely powerful humans on Earth. Upon hearing this news, Ebony Maw initially thought that it was the Supreme Sorcerer who took action, but when the Chidori sent him the image of that person's appearance, he immediately knew that it was not the Supreme Sorcerer. This made him feel relieved. The Supreme Sorcerer and Lord Thanos are both powerful people at the same level. If it was the Supreme Sorcerer who took action, it would be troublesome. Now that it is not the Supreme Sorcerer who took action, there will be no problem. However, as a loyal subordinate, he still informed Thanos of this matter, and then Thanos replied to him. Send General Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight and Black Dwarf to kill those Earthlings, and by the way, slaughter all the Chidori. This group of useless trash has lost its due value. Yes. At this time, because in the space environment, the reversal technique needs to be used continuously to restore cells that are constantly damaged due to lack of oxygen, the experience of the slow reversal technique is rapidly improved. Finally, when Captain America and others are about to break through the control room of the Chitauri mothership, different prompts from the system sounded. Reversal technique experience +1. Congratulations, your skill reversal technique has been upgraded. Reversal technique LV3, 1/1000. It turns the negative energy of the cursed power into positive energy, has a strong healing effect, and can be used on others. P.S. Why did Thanos only send 3 generals? Because the Chitauri didn't dare to tell him that So-Mu was stronger than him, they could only say that he was very strong, so Thanos didn't take So-Mu seriously, and sending 3 of the Black Obsidian 5 generals was already a great deal of attention. Please read and collect. Chapter 63 The Arrival of the Black Legion. The reversal technique was upgraded again. So-Mu used the space blade to make a wound on his palm. The wound healed immediately under the action of the LV3 reversal technique. At this time, the recovery speed of the wound is several times higher than that of LV2. If the recovery speed of LV2's reversal technique is similar to that of Wolverine, the recovery speed at this time has completely surpassed Wolverine. If So-Mu had continued to use the reversal technique, he would have achieved immortality at this time. For him at this time, there is no pressure to continuously activate the reversal technique and the unlimited technique. And in addition to the increase in recovery speed, the LV3 reversal technique can already be used on others. According to So-Mu's guess, the LV4 reversal spell will undergo a huge transformation. Under the action of the reversal spell, he is likely to be able to reverse his own state, from immortality to being able to reverse his own time, and change his physical condition to that of a young child. Adjust at will between age and old age. Of course, this ability can also be used on other living creatures, and even on inanimate objects. After the reversal spell reaches level 4, it should be possible to forcibly strip the reality gem from Jane Foster's body. Closing the system panel, So-Mu looked forward. At this time, the Hulk, who had the physique of a frost giant, rampaged among the Chitauri soldiers, constantly tearing their bodies apart. Captain America and others behind the Hulk kept killing the Chitauri soldiers missed by the Hulk. As they continued to approach the mothership control room, no Chitauri soldiers could survive. The Chitauri soldiers tried their best to stop them, but they could not affect So-Mu and the others at all. Within a moment, So-Mu and the others arrived in front of the command room. Boom! With a loud noise, the metal door of the command room was blasted open by Hulk's punch. So-Mu and others slowly walked into the command room. At this time, Commander Chitauri hid behind the remaining soldiers in a sullen manner, and warned So-Mu, who was obviously the leader of the Earthlings. Earthlings, I am the vanguard of the Mad Titan. We have sent a distress signal. The terrifying Black Legion is about to arrive. If you leave here, I can forget your previous offenses. So-Mu seemed not to have heard anything and walked towards Commander Chitauri. When he saw the terrifying Earthling approaching him quickly, Commander Chitauri immediately showed a look of panic on his face, and he shouted in panic. He ordered to the soldiers in front of him. Shoot, shoot, kill him for me. A large number of energy rays were shot from the high-tech firearms and then hit So-Mu's body, but these energy rays could not cause any harm to him and only provided him with a few energy points. In the dense energy beam and in the desperate eyes of the Chitauri soldiers in front entered a distance of 5 meters around So-Mu. The body of the Chitauri soldier at the front was immediately cut in half. Just as the upper body was dislocated and had not yet slipped, it was immediately cut into 4 pieces from top to bottom by the next slash. Then intensive slashes enveloped the Chitauri soldiers, completely cutting their bodies into pieces. A hazy blood mist floated in the command room, but they were unable to get even close to So-Mu and were repelled 5 meters away. When Gang Sumu came to the Chitauri commander, all the Chitauri soldiers were dead, leaving only the lonely commander. Facing the terrifying Earthlings in front of him, under the intense fear and despair, his emotions got out of control as expected. Don't come here, you monster! He attracted a machine that looked like an earphone from the table nearby and put it in his ear. With the help of the cosmic language translator, Su-mu finally understood Commander Chitori's words. He hooked his fingers slightly, and the Chitori commander was imprisoned in the air by the twisted gravity. Under the terrifying force field, the Chitori commander's body was constantly shaking, and the sound of broken bones continued to be heard. Su-mu smiled gently and said to him, "Looking at your ugly appearance, like a constantly twisting bug, will the invader who is famous in the entire universe also cry in tears?" Just when Su-mu wanted to say something, a rough voice suddenly sounded in the mothership control room. "Earthling, I order you to put him down. Only the Mad Titan is qualified to deal with the Mad Titan's subordinates." In the central area of the control room, a tall humanoid creature with grey skin was projected by the instrument. He warned Su-mu. "People on Earth, let him go, give up resistance, and accept Thanos' trial, so that you can have a chance of survival." In the deep universe in front of the control room, a huge wormhole quickly formed. A mothership several times larger than the Chitori mothership flew out of the wormhole. In the control room at the top of them, the Death Blade, the General, Proxima Centauri and Black Dwarf saw the figures of the Earthlings who had breached the Chitori mothership through projection. P.S. 5 stars, Black Dwarf. When Black Dwarf issued a notice to the people on Earth, General Deathblade was talking to his wife Proxima Centauri. "The Chitori are such a bunch of trash, they were defeated by the natives of Earth. But even if the Chitori are useless, they are still Lord Thanos' subordinates. If they attack Lord Thanos' subordinates, the cowardly people of Earth must pay the price." Proxima Centauri on the side also said, "We will use our blood to tell the people on Earth what will happen if we provoke Thanos' army. They don't think that the cowardly people on Earth can resist the attack of Thanos' Black Legion, or even think that the people on Earth dare to resist them." P.S. 5-star generals, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. Unlike the Chitori Legion, the Obsidian Legion is the core legion of the Thanos Legion, with a combat power far superior to that of the Chitori Legion. They believe that the people of Earth will make a rational choice, give up resistance, and wait for the judgment of the Mad Titan. However, while they were chatting, Black Dwarf, who was talking to the Earthlings, suddenly roared, "No, you bastard, damn bug, I must tear you to pieces." Then they heard Black Dwarf say to them, "That damn Earthling rejected us and killed the Chitori commander. He even challenged us to fight against the Great Obsidian Legion." When General Grim Reaper and his wife heard what Black Dwarf said, they also showed anger on their faces. They dared to challenge the Obsidian Legion. It seems that the ignorant Earthlings do not know the reputation of the Obsidian Legion. But even if they don't know, the Obsidian Legion still cannot tolerate provocation. It seems that it's time to let the Earthlings understand the fear of being dominated. Attack the Chitori mothership and turn the Earthlings on it into cosmic dust. Under the command of the Undead General, the energy light cannon on the spacecraft was charged at a high speed. After a short period of energy storage, the terrifying energy light cannon suddenly shot at the Chitori mothership. Watching the energy beam streaking across the deep universe and flying towards the Chitori mothership at high speed, the three generals of the darkness smiled brightly at the same time. Just when the three generals of the darkness thought that the Earthlings would be turned into cosmic dust along with the Chitori mothership in the next moment, they suddenly discovered that the terrifying energy beam had stopped in front of the Chitori mothership. In front of the energy beam, a white-haired Earthling blocked the terrifying energy beam cannon with one hand, preventing it from advancing an inch. Chapter 64 Kill the Black Dwarf Proxima Centauri. Time went back to a few minutes ago. Facing the threat of Black Dwarf, Su-mu suddenly smiled at him, then removed the repulsion and put down the Chitori commander in the air. Black Dwarf watched all this as a matter of course. Facing the Black Legion, any force would compromise, not to mention the cowardly Earthlings. However, he later saw the Earthlings come to the Chitori commander and point their fingers at the Chitori commander's skin. With the dazzling light, the huge energy that was forced into the Chitori commander's body turned into ashes. After doing these things, Seo-mu raised his middle finger to Black Dwarf to express his cordial greetings. Tony Stark, who was standing by, saw this scene and pointed to the spaceship of the Black Legion in the distance, and then said to Seo-mu, "Is it really okay to provoke them like this? They seem angry. Should we leave here?" Through the glass of the control room, the spaceship in the distance can be clearly seen. After Seo-mu raised his middle finger, the communication with the spaceship in front was interrupted, and then the main gun of the spaceship in the distance began to charge, and it was obvious that it was going to attack the Cheatery mothership. P.S. Spaceship, Temple 2. While checking the detection results of Mark 7, Tony said to Seo-mu, "The energy output of their attack this time is no less than a nuclear bomb explosion, and it is a continuous energy beam. We can't stop it. I suggest that we return immediately and ask the Supreme Sorcerer to help her resist the Thanos Legion." But he suddenly found that Seo-mu beside him had opened the portal at some point, walked in, and appeared in front of the upcoming laser beam. He immediately asked loudly, "What are you doing? Come back quickly. Even if you can withstand a nuclear bomb explosion, you can't withstand the energy beam of a spaceship. Compared to a nuclear bomb, the energy beam of a spaceship has a higher energy level and is more concentrated. Open the portal quickly, let's return to Earth together, the Supreme Sorcerer will solve all problems." Before he finished speaking, the terrifying energy beam shot out from the main gun of the spaceship, instantly crossing a long distance and arriving in front of the Cheatery mothership. Compared with the thick energy beam, Seo-mu who was blocking him was like an ant trying to stop a car, and was about to be crushed to death in an instant. Tony immediately opened a portal, wanting to bring Seo-mu back and teleport to Earth. Even if combined with magic, the power of Mark armor was greatly enhanced, but it still couldn't shake Seo-mu at all. At the moment when the two were frozen and delayed, the energy beam in the distance had arrived and was about to cover Seo-mu and the others. Tony Stark shouted loudly, "No!" He wanted to release the portal, but it was too late. The next moment, the energy ray hit them instantly. Tony Stark could only pray that Mark armor and Seo-mu's physical fitness could withstand the energy ray for a moment, so that they still had a chance of survival. But when the energy ray came into contact with Seo-mu, it suddenly stopped. Tony Stark looked at this scene in shock and said in disbelief, "What happened?" Seo-mu stretched out a hand to block the energy ray, and then those terrifying energy rays could not get close at all. Tony saw Seo-mu turned back and smiled at him, "We are all Supreme Sorcerers, so you should be calm. You and Captain America are waiting for me here. I will be back soon." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Seo-mu forcibly resisting the energy ray and moving against the current towards the direction of the distant spaceship at a high speed. While moving towards the spaceship, the system's prompts kept ringing in Seo-mu's ears. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy absorption constantly absorbs energy from the energy ray released by the spaceship and then converts it into energy points. The energy in this energy ray is the lowest level of energy, far inferior to the energy in the energy core of the Eternals, so Seo-mu has no burden at all in absorbing this energy. He went upstream, and under the influence of strong gravity, he came to the main gun at a high speed. The black and red singularity formed in his palm and was thrown out by him. The main gun of the spacecraft was immediately destroyed by the terrifying repulsion. The next moment, Seo-mu's figure disappeared from the original place again, appeared in front of the spacecraft control room, and rushed over. The special glass that can withstand huge impacts has no resistance in front of Seo-mu and shattered instantly. Seo-mu's body instantly appeared in front of the Black Dwarf, stretched out his hand to hold the Black Dwarf's head, and smashed him to the ground. The body of the Black Dwarf was suddenly embedded in the special metal floor. He struggled with all his strength, but facing the Earthlings who were much thinner than his body, he couldn't break free at all. He felt a mountain pressing down from his forehead, which was a force he couldn't resist at all. The power of the 5 Black Dwarfs, which terrified all the civilizations in the universe, had no power to resist So-mu at all. General Corvus and Proxima Midnight only then realized that the Earthling had actually crashed through the energy beam, smashed the main gun, and then broke into the control room and suppressed the Black Dwarf in an instant. How is this possible? Could it be that in addition to the Supreme Sorcerer and Captain Marvel, there is another cosmic overlord-level figure on Earth? While they were thinking about it, they did not stop attacking and immediately used their weapons to attack So-mu. But they found that So-mu ignored their attacks and instead flashed black and red lightning in his hands. The next moment, when the attacks of General Corvus Glaive and Dark Knight Proxima fell within 5 meters of So-mu, they could no longer advance. Under the effect of the black flash, the head of Black Dwarf, which could withstand energy rays without any damage, was crushed by So-mu. Standing up, using the unlimited technique to peel off the blood in his hands, So-mu looked at the two people in front of him who were facing a great enemy and smiled gently. "You want me to surrender?" General Corvus Glaive and the other two looked at each other and immediately separated to attack So-mu from two lines of defense. General Corvus Glaive took the lead and swung the war blade that was said to be able to cut atoms and slashed at So-mu. But even though the war blade in his hand could cut atoms, it still could not advance a bit when facing the unlimited technique. So-mu stretched out his hand and the terrifying repulsion casually knocked General Corvus Glaive away. The huge force made him break through the wall and fly out of the control room. Then So-mu turned around and chopped, and Dark Knight Proxima swung his spear to attack as well. However, the spear, which was said to be able to swing at the speed of light, still could not break through the defense of the unlimited spell. Seeing the strange scene in front of her, Dark Knight Proxima finally showed fear in her eyes. Even when facing Lord Thanos, she had never felt such a strong sense of oppression. Looking at the white-haired Earthling in front of her, she asked, "Who are you?" But obviously So-mu did not answer her thoughts. His figure suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of Dark Knight Proxima. The singularity in his hand flashing black and red light hit her head at close range. The next moment, her head was instantly shattered, a lot of blood splattered, and a huge pit appeared in the floor below her original head. General Dark Knight also rushed over again at this time. He had just rushed into the control room and saw his wife died tragically. "No!" He roared in grief, and then rushed towards So-mu like a moth to a flame. Please keep reading. Chapter 65 Killing General Corvus Blade. General Corvus Glaive was extremely sad, his face was distorted violently, his ugly appearance was even more embarrassing, and it formed a huge contrast with So-mu who was still smiling gently. The war blade tore through the air and slashed towards So-mu with a huge whistling sound. But this attack that could easily break through the Hulk's defense stopped 5 meters in front of So-mu. Looking at General Corvus Glaive who kept making unknown angry calls in front of him, the gentle smile on So-mu's face gradually deformed and began to be happy. He deliberately lowered the distance of the unlimited spell to create the illusion that the defense was being broken by General Corvus Glaive's attack, and said slightly exaggeratedly, "It's so scary, you're about to cut me, don't come over." General Corvus Glaive, who was drowned in rage and hatred, naturally did not notice the teasing in So-mu's eyes. When he saw the enemy who killed his wife getting closer and closer, his face gradually showed excitement. "We can win. His defense is not truly invulnerable." General Grim Reaper swung his glaive quickly, stirring up a gust of wind in the control room. After each swing of his glaive, So-mu would simultaneously reduce the range of the unlimited spell, and soon General Grim Reaper arrived in front of So-mu. Seeing that he had finally arrived beside So-mu, General Grim Reaper could no longer suppress the excitement on his face, and he shouted loudly, "Lowly Earthling, go to hell!" Looking at the glaive approaching him rapidly, So-mu cooperated with a horrified smile, and at the same time seemed to be in a panic, and at the same time, he stretched out his palm seemingly randomly to resist the attack of the glaive. Seeing this scene, General Grim Reaper could already foresee the scene of the glaive in his hand cutting off So-mu's arm and then splitting him into two. The revenge for killing his wife will be avenged soon. But the next moment, as if by coincidence, the glaive that broke through the speed of sound was blocked by a slender index finger with distinct bones, and then in the unbelievable eyes of General Grim Reaper, it instantly went from extremely active to extremely quiet, and stopped. Then he saw the earthling in front of him finally couldn't hold back his smile, and the previous panic and despair disappeared, turning into teasing and playfulness. Ha ha ha, your expression is so funny, you don't really think you can win, do you? Su-mu covered his stomach, looking at the excitement with a bit of dullness on General Grievous' face, and the dullness with a bit of confusion. He couldn't control it anymore, and laughed while covering his stomach. General Grievous finally realized that he was being fooled. In the mockery of Su-mu, he finally completely lost his mind, roared and used all his strength to chop at Su-mu again. However, the war blade that was enough to cut off the atom was still stopped by an index finger, and it could not move forward any further. The seemingly weak index finger actually resisted the war blade, and there was not even a trace of white mark on the skin on it. Seeing this absolute gap, General Grievous shouted in despair, "No!" Su-mu picked his ears, and then slowly walked towards General Grievous. The unlimited art slowly opened again. At this time, General Corvus Glaive continued to swing the blade in his hand as before, but contrary to the beginning, the distance between him and Su-mu continued to expand, until it reached the initial 5 meters. Su-mu continued to move forward, even though he pinned General Corvus Glaive against the wall and could not move, he did not stop at all. As he continued to approach, General Corvus Glaive was embedded in the wall, and his skin and bones were gradually shattered. The metal wall behind General Corvus Glaive could not achieve this degree alone, but Su-mu also exerted repulsion on the wall at the same time. The reason why General Corvus Glaive's body was shattered at this time was better to say that it was the result of the collision of two repulsive forces in opposite directions. Under the strong pressure, General Grim Reaper's body quickly collapsed, but he had the ability to heal quickly. Even though his body was about to turn into a pool of meat, he still did not die. He could even vibrate the remaining organs to speak. Ha ha ha, you can't kill me, but I will kill you one day. Facing General Grim Reaper's confident provocation, Su-mu's smile remained unchanged. He smiled and said, "Well, indeed, if you don't destroy the battle blade of the soul, it is impossible to kill you. Your body will regenerate infinitely, and even with the help of the battle blade, you can be resurrected infinitely." The arrogant smile on General Grim Reaper's face froze. "How do you know my ability?" But soon he showed an arrogant smile again. "But what if you know, my battle blade is indestructible, even Lord Thanos can't destroy it, let alone you." "Really?" Using gravity, he attracted the battle blade lying on the ground in the distance, and then held the battle blade in his hand with force, accompanied by black and red lightning. Even if he used black flash, he couldn't destroy the battle blade. Seeing this scene, the smile on General Grievous' face became even more rampant. "How can a mere earthling destroy my war blade? Stop dreaming!" Faced with his provocation, Su-mu was not angry at all, but looked at him mockingly. "I have encountered too many things that are said to be indestructible, the most representative of which is the destroyer armor from Asgard. I wonder if your war blade is tougher than Odin's destroyer armor." The expression on General Grievous' face froze instantly. He naturally knew Odin's destroyer armor and what kind of power the destroyer armor had. That was enough to rival the power of the Celestials. Even if he was confident in his war blade, he did not think that his war blade could match the destroyer armor. Suddenly, he could no longer maintain his confidence and asked Su-mu anxiously, "What are you going to do?" Su-mu did not answer. He had had enough fun. He held the blade of General Grim Reaper and exerted force again, but unlike before, first the azure light condensed in his palm, followed by the black and red light. Then the two collided and blended with each other, and a terrifying purple illusion sphere was generated in Su-mu's palm. Virtual style. Facing the illusion sphere that was enough to penetrate the space, the indestructible blade was immediately visibly broken by General Grim Reaper's high hopes. The parts touched by the purple illusion sphere were immediately annihilated, and not even a trace of debris could be retained. During the process of the blade being annihilated, General Grim Reaper let out a desperate and painful wail. His soul was lodged in the blade, and during the process of the blade being annihilated, his soul was also annihilated. Especially, I don't know if it was Summu's bad taste. He could obviously annihilate the blade instantly, but he had to do this process slowly. Finally, after a few minutes, General Corvus Glaive's painful wails stopped, and he kept squirming in the repulsive field. His flesh and blood that were trying to recover also stopped moving, and he fell into absolute deathly silence. General Corvus Glaive, the most powerful of the 5 Dark Lords, the #1 general under the so-called immortal Thanos, was easily killed by Summu. Please read on. Chapter 66. The next character template to be launched. Summu activated the energy in his body, and under the precise control of his 6 eyes, he instilled it into the corpses of the 3 dead blade generals. Under the burning energy, his corpses were reduced to ashes along with the splattered broken flesh and blood. After disposing of the corpse, through the 6-eye perspective, Summu discovered that many soldiers of the Black Radiance Legion were rushing towards him. As the most elite force under Thanos, even though their leader was dead, even though they knew they were invincible, they still charged towards the enemy. P.S. Black Legion. Facing so many enemies, if it were before, Summu might have used all his strength to send them on their way using the virtual, but now he had a better idea to subdue the Black Legion without destroying the spaceship. After all, he still has a use for this spaceship, but he can't completely destroy it. When the soldiers of the Black Legion were about to approach him, he stretched out his right hand, raised his index and middle fingers, and then wrapped his middle finger around his index finger. After completing the simple preliminaries, he said calmly, "The field unfolds infinite space. The energy in the body is completely boiling, quickly converted into pure magic power, and then consumed immediately. Endless information envelops the entire spaceship, and any living thing inside is pulled into the infinite inner side and is forced to undergo countless repeated perceptions and conductions, producing a large amount of useless information." The moment the domain unfolded, all the soldiers of the Black Legion stopped moving. Seeing the scene in front of him, Summu showed a bright smile, and then his body instantly disappeared from the place and appeared 5 meters away. He kept flashing, coming to the side of the Black Legion soldiers one after another, and pouring energy into the bodies of the Black Legion soldiers. As Summu's figure continued to flicker, rays of light erupted inside the spaceship. It was the light that erupted from the bodies of the Black Legion soldiers, turning them into ashes. The energy needed to kill the soldiers was just a drop in the bucket for Summu. Even the energy from the energy rays of the spaceship he had absorbed was enough to turn all the soldiers into ashes. With the continuous use of the LV4 unlimited teleportation ability, Summu passed through all areas of the spaceship in a short time like a ghost, and finally returned to the control room again. In a short period of time, all the soldiers of the Black Radiance Legion were wiped out by him, leaving nothing but a few remaining ashes. In the control room, Summu paused for a moment. The physical load caused by the continuous space jumps was quickly recovered under the action of the reversal technique. In an instant, he was back to his peak state again. After all the enemies were dealt with, Summu opened the portal to the Chitauri mothership, allowing Tony and others to enter the spacecraft named Temple 2. He asked Tony, who had just entered Temple number 2 and kept looking around. "Tony, do you have any way to control this ship?" Tony first said confidently. "Of course, standing in front of you is the greatest inventor. There is nothing I can't do. But what about the other people in this spaceship? Why didn't I see them? It was resolved just now." "What?" "In Thanos's other spaceship, Temple 1, as time passed, Thanos became more and more irritable, and he asked Ebony Maw, 'Why haven't Deathblade and the others come back after so long?' Ebony Maw was equally puzzled, and he said to Thanos, I will ask Deathblade and the others. Ebony Maw dialed the communication of Temple Number 2, but because the communication device was destroyed by Su-mu and was being repaired by Tony, his communication was destined to be unable to be dialed. Seeing that the communication could not be dialed for a long time, Wu Muhao's ominous premonition reached its peak, and he said in disbelief. Could it be? He immediately called up the internal surveillance of Temple 2, so he and Thanos saw. I saw the white-haired earthlings going upstream against the energy beam, the black dwarf whose head was crushed, the dark star Proxima Centauri whose upper body was annihilated by the terrifying repulsion, and the body that was squeezed by the terrifying repulsion that kept collapsing and reorganizing. Even the last indestructible war blade was destroyed by the terrifying purple sphere. Ebony Maw fell silent, as did the Mad Titan, who frightened the entire universe. Because of his anger, Thanos' wrinkled face was completely distorted, but he knew that he could not go for revenge at this time. Just the combat power shown in the picture, the Earthling who could easily destroy the Deathblade General's blade was already comparable to him, or even surpass him. Besides, this is just what the Earthling showed. It is obvious that he hides more, and General Deathblade and others cannot let him use his full strength. In the dead silence, the anger on Thanos' face gradually faded and turned into calm. He could not go for revenge immediately, he still had a greater mission to do. So he could only say helplessly to Ebony Throat. Go all out to find the Power Stone. Only after we get the Power Stone can we invade the Earth. Facing this terrifying white-haired Earthling, even the Mad Titan, who has frightened all the major forces in the universe and acted unscrupulously, killing countless creatures, has to stay dormant. Without him, I can't beat him. Thanos, give in. Su-mu was very happy to hear Tony's reply, and then asked him to repair the spacecraft control room and teach Black Widow and others how to control the spacecraft. From now on, this spaceship will serve as the base for the Sudan Bureau for a long time. If it is to be the base of the Su-Shield Bureau, then the name of the spaceship will have to be delayed. Temple Number 2 is obviously not suitable. Su-mu thought for a moment and finally decided on the name of the spaceship, which is called Ark. The savior ship that brings peace to the major forces in the universe in the future. Leaving Tony and others in the spaceship, Su-mu opened the portal and returned to the top floor of the Stark building. He came to the portal generation device, and the mind gem flew out of the pocket space. A large amount of energy wrapped Su-mu's arm with the mind gem as the center. Su-mu suddenly stretched out his hand, passed through the extremely solid energy shield, and then took out the space cube. Feeling the huge space energy contained in it, Su-mu's fingers exerted a little force, and in the black and red electric current, the space cube was completely crushed by him, revealing the blue cosmic stone hidden in it. Under the effect of the unlimited technique, the two cosmic stones slowly rotated with Su-mu as the center, and huge energy was infused into Su-mu's body from the inside of the cosmic stone. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. The system prompts kept ringing in his ears. After Su-mu's body reached its limit again, he had absorbed a huge amount of energy. These energies plus the continuous accumulation in the past few days have greatly improved the template fusion degree. Template fusion degree, 91%. The template fusion degree is about to reach 100%, and the next character template will be unlocked soon. Su-mu's mouth curled slightly, and he felt happy, but there was something that could make him feel even happier. He opened the portal and entered the space carrier. He said to the very skilled Agent Hill. Tell me where the major generals of the military are now. Please read more. Chapter 67 The killing begins, the first general dies. After establishing the shield, Su-mu ordered Agent Hill to use all resources to find the whereabouts of the generals who had participated in the plan to encircle him. Su-mu is not a big-hearted person. He did not retaliate when he was maliciously hurt. The reason why he spared the lives of those generals before was that he did not know their specific locations. Now with the resources that originally belonged to S.H.I.E.L.D., it is easy to find the whereabouts of those generals. Not long after, Agent Hill handed Su-mu a tablet computer with red marks all over the map on it. These red marks are the current locations of those generals. Looking at these marks, Su-mu smiled brightly, and he was going to return the gift. In a hidden military base, the general in charge of this military base was attending a meeting in the conference room. This is also the third meeting held by the military against the White Devil. The goal of previous meetings was undoubtedly such a big event as disputes with other countries. There has never been a meeting for a single person, but for the White Devil, they have held several meetings, which has never happened before. And more importantly, the perfect plan they formulated in the meeting to encircle and suppress the White Devil all failed, and could not cause the slightest impact on the White Devil. Since World War II, the United States has not experienced such a major setback. At the meeting, the highest-ranking general asked Colonel Stryker, who was in charge of the Sentinel project. "Colonel Stryker, how is the development of the Sentinel robot going?" Although he was the lowest-ranking person in this secret meeting, Colonel Stryker attracted everyone's attention as soon as he opened his mouth, because the Sentinel project he was in charge of would be their only hope in the future. According to the style of the White Devil, it is impossible to give up revenge on them, so if the White Devil is not killed as soon as possible and allowed to grow, then they will be the only ones to die. At this time, they and the White Devil have reached a point where they cannot coexist. Hearing the question from the Supreme General, Colonel Stryker said confidently. With the help of Dr. Samuel Stern and Dr. Ivan Vanko, the progress of the Sentinel robot has been advanced very quickly. It has now reached the final stage, and only the final actual combat test is left. This time, the Sentinel robot not only integrates the transformation gene of Mystique, which can adapt to a variety of different mutant abilities, but also uses the arc reactor as the energy core of the Sentinel robot. With the support of huge energy, they can greatly increase the mutant abilities that have been copied. According to our calculations, only 10 Sentinel robots can kill a level 4 mutant, and when 100 Sentinel robots attack at the same time, even the White Demon is no match for them. The latest version of the Sentinel robot was projected on the large screen in the conference room. While maintaining the original shape, they have an extra luminous body on their chests, which is the arc reactor. And the material that makes up the arc reactor is not metal, but another composite material with higher hardness than metal, and it also has excellent regeneration ability. Hearing Colonel Stryker's explanation, the generals finally smiled. The anxiety caused by the death crisis disappeared in an instant. Such a powerful Sentinel robot must be able to successfully kill the White Devil. At this moment, the general suddenly heard a huge explosion, followed by endless screams and gunshots. He immediately had a bad premonition. Not long after, a soldier came to report. "General, the White Devil has discovered the location of the military base and has already attacked. Please evacuate as soon as possible." "What?" The general was shocked. Why did the White Devil find his location? Except for a few covert organizations, even the president didn't know where he was at this time? Where did the information leak from? After a brief doubt, he was overwhelmed by boundless fear. With the powerful strength of the White Devil, even if the current combat power of the military base is enough to flatten a small country, it can't stop the White Devil for a moment. He thought of something and immediately asked Colonel Stryker. "Colonel Stryker, how many Sentinel robots have been made now? Send them to rescue me quickly. The White Devil has discovered my location and has begun to invade the military base." "What fake?" All the generals looked terrified, because they knew that the White Devil could find the location of any one of them, and naturally the location of others. No matter what means the White Devil used to find them, it also meant that they were no longer safe. All the generals immediately put pressure on Colonel Stryker. "Colonel Stryker, quickly send all the Sentinel robots to rescue General Gordon and kill the White Devil." "Yes. Generals, please rest assured that the number of Sentinel robots has reached 200, which can easily defeat the White Devil. Please hold on for a moment, General Gordon and the Sentinel robots will go to support immediately." Use the spell to turn Cang to fly at high speed in the air, breaking the sound barrier and reaching Mach 20. It only takes a few minutes for Su-mu to reach the location of the military base closest to him. When Su-mu just arrived above the military base, a shrill alarm sounded immediately. Alarm! Alarm! An unknown flying object is approaching. No, it's not an unknown flying object, it's a white devil. Amid the piercing alarm, Su-mu suddenly fell from the sky, and in an instant he fell from 1,000 meters high, falling into the military base like a meteorite. Boom! In the huge roar, the irresistible evil impact started from the position where Su-mu fell, and spread outward at a high speed, instantly destroying all the buildings in the military base. With just one blow, all the buildings on the ground of the military base were flattened, and even the heavy tanks were blown away by the terrifying repulsion. Under such a terrifying impact, the drivers inside were obviously unable to survive. All the buildings on the ground of the military base were destroyed, and everyone on the ground was killed, but Su-mu did not leave, but walked slowly to a corner of the ruins. The unlimited technique automatically recognized and pushed away all the smoke and dust. In the dusty environment, Su-mu was not stained with a trace of dust. After reaching a specific position, Su-mu stopped, and the energy in his body quickly condensed, forming a terrifying black and red singularity in his hand. After the black and red singularity was fully formed, it suddenly fell down. The terrifying repulsive force destroyed everything below, and in the blink of an eye, a huge circular pit was formed on the spot. And 100 meters underground, an underground space destroyed by the terrifying repulsive force appeared, and then the figure of a general recorded in the data appeared in front of Su-mu. Under the precise control of Li Huan, his legs were completely crushed by the terrifying repulsive force, but his upper body was safe and sound, so he did not die, but just kept struggling and wailing on the ground. Using gravity to attract the general up, ignoring the general's plea for mercy, Su-mu stretched out his finger and pointed at the general's chest, then turned and left. The first one. Boom! Huge energy exploded in the general's body, emitting terrifying light and heat, and annihilating everything around. Thousands of meters above the sky, Su-mu glanced back at the huge mushroom cloud behind him, and the smile on his face became more and more joyful. The next moment, his body broke through the sonic boom and moved towards the next target location at a high speed. Please read it again. Chapter 68 The White Devil, the Focus of the World. Chapter 68 The Focus of the World, the White Devil. A few minutes later, Su-mu arrived at the next military base. Above the base, he ignored the high-yield missiles attacking him, ignored the shooting of many soldiers below, and stood in the sky high in the sky. The energy in his body boiled and was consumed rapidly. The black-red singularity grew larger and larger in his palm, and did not stop until it reached the size of half a person. Spell reversal he experience +1. Spell reversal he experience +1. Spell reversal he experience +1. Amid the constant prompts from the system, and under the desperate gazes of many soldiers, the black-red singularity turned into a stream of light and fell from the sky, then landed on the ground. Boom! When all the sounds disappeared, when the smoke and dust completely dissipated, the original military base completely disappeared, leaving only a huge circular hole. After confirming that the second general was completely dead, Su-mu took one step forward and flew towards the military base closest to him at high speed again. So repeatedly. Su-mu's behavior was immediately noticed by major media, and some media even rushed to the ruins of the military base to broadcast live. The most eye-catching one is Eddie Brock, a rising star in journalism who is familiar to many viewers. Before, he forcibly ate Su-mu's magic reversal and all his flesh and bones were crushed by the strong repulsive force. However, with Venom's best efforts to treat him, after lying in bed for 2 weeks, he finally survived. However, this blow did not make him give up reporting on the White Devil. He could no longer do without his reputation, and naturally he could not do without the White Devil who brought all this to him. He stood in front of the camera and told the audience. The White Devil suddenly attacked our country's military base an hour ago. According to our speculation, the White Devil's behavior this time should be in retaliation for the previous military attack on him. In just 1 hour, he had destroyed 5 military bases and caused tens of thousands of casualties. I don't know if the White Devil's behavior at this time means that he wants to officially start a war with the government and kick off the battle between mutants and ordinary people. At Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, Professor. The White Devil's own actions have begun to affect the entire mutant population, and his actions have severely damaged the peace between mutants and ordinary people. Hank, the beast with blue hair all over his body, walked over from a distance and said to Professor X. Professor, the military has warned us to help them kill the White Devil, otherwise they will treat mutants as war against ordinary people. Beast Hank's words finally made Professor X make up his mind, and he said to Hank. Get ready to attack, we have to stop him. But the White Devil is too powerful, we are no match for him. He even easily defeated the alien forces that wanted to invade the Earth. Judging from his combat effectiveness, his power has been greatly improved again. No, Hank, we have to do it, it's for the future of mutants, for our future. Under Professor X's persuasion, Beast Hank finally agreed to send a message to all the X-Men. Afterwards, Eddie Brock, who was reporting on the ruins of another military base on the plane, received an official summons. He immediately turned to the camera and said to all the viewers watching the live broadcast. Please don't worry, the X-Men have informed us that the destruction of the military base is the White Devil's own intention, not the mutants' intentions. A war between mutants and humans will not break out. And the X-Men also stated that they would join the military in encircling and suppressing the White Devil and killing it completely. The military also stated that they have acquired enough weapons to defeat the White Devil. It is absolutely impossible for the White Devil to escape this time, and he will eventually be eliminated. After seeing Eddie Brock's report, various voices on the internet were boiling. First of all, there are supporters of the White Devil, but most of them are outsiders who are afraid of being liquidated in a world ruled by the White Devil. They said this on the internet. I will always support the White Devil, he will defeat the incompetent military and government. But secretly they longed for the death of the White Devil. In addition to this group of people, there are also some absolute supporters of the White Devil. Except for a small number of fanatical ordinary people, most of them are mutants, and most of them have been more or less persecuted by the authorities. They kept making comments online. The Savior will lead us to declare war on the incompetent officials and governments. We will overthrow the incompetent government and build a world where mutants are no longer persecuted. Yes, the Savior will lead us to revenge. Long live the Savior! Opponents of the White Devil continue to boast on the internet, constantly saying that the White Devil will die under the encirclement and suppression by the X-Men and the authorities. They kept cheering, saying that after the death of the White Devil, the world would be peaceful again. Those damn mutants can't cause any trouble after all. Among them, in a secret room, Polaris and her companion were watching the live news. Her companion wanted to go to help Su-Mu, but was stopped by Polaris. Looking at his companions who were questioning him, Polaris had no words to say. She had said countless times that Su-Mu was different from what they imagined. In his eyes, there was no difference between mutants and ordinary people, but her companions obviously did not believe it. So she could only say, "Your power is too weak. If you go rashly, you will not be able to help the Savior, and you may even cause trouble for him." This explanation was finally accepted by his companions. In the same hidden room, Magneto looked at Eddie Brock's report and said to the Brotherhood, "We have to go too. This is a good opportunity to exterminate humans. Since Charles wants to stop the White Devil and stop the war between mutants and humans, then we will promote this war. The future of this world will eventually belong to mutants, and we are the rulers of the future world." Behind him, many Brotherhood members looked at him enthusiastically. They had been looking forward to the future described by Magneto for a long time, and this was the closest time to that future. Su-mu didn't know what happened on the internet at this time, and he wouldn't care even if he knew. Whether it is the voices supporting him or opposing him, he will ignore them. He is just himself, and what he does is just for himself. Coming to a military base again, Su-mu was about to destroy it completely, but suddenly looked into the distance, and then the smile on his face was extremely happy. It seems that the confident military has made new moves. He stretched out his palm and dragged it in front of him. The azure black hole and the black and red singularity quickly merged on his palm to form a terrifying purple illusion sphere. Let's give them a greeting gift first. The terrifying purple illusion sphere cut through the space and flew towards the 200 sentinel robots flying towards him at a high speed. Please read it again. Chapter 69, Technique, Level 4 of the Cang Technique, Earth-Shattering Star. Chapter 69, Forwarding Technique Cang LV4, Earth-Shattering Star. The speed of the virtual style chi is extremely fast. Even though many sentinel robots dodged immediately, dozens of them were still hit. Some of these dozens of sentinel robots were directly destroyed, leaving no trace of wreckage, and some of them were mostly annihilated. Su-mu stopped the seemingly unstoppable offensive of the sentinel robots with a casual blow, giving a heavy blow to the generals who were watching the battle from a distance. Some generals immediately questioned Colonel Stryker. Colonel Stryker, didn't you say that the material of the sentinel robot has been qualitatively improved? Why is it still vulnerable to the attack of the white demon? Colonel Stryker looked ugly, and he explained. The strength of the attack of the purple sphere of the white demon is higher than we imagined. According to my guess, even adamantium and vibranium cannot resist this terrifying purple sphere, so even if the material of the sentinel robot has achieved a qualitative breakthrough, it still cannot stop the purple sphere. But please rest assured, generals, according to the strength of the purple sphere, even the white demon cannot release such a terrifying move continuously, and his other abilities are extremely difficult to destroy the current sentinel robot, and he will eventually be killed by the sentinel robot. Colonel Stryker's explanation made many generals relax again, and they once again watched the battle in the distance with a high-handed attitude, just like at the beginning. Sure enough, the part of the robot that was not completely destroyed by the purple sphere was regenerating rapidly, and unknown non-metallic substances on the body were generated out of thin air to make up for the vacancy of the body. Su-mu also noticed this phenomenon, and he looked at the sentinel robot in front of him with interest. The appearance of the robot in front of him has changed greatly from the first generation, and has completely turned into the appearance of the sentinel robot in the future. However, unlike the sentinel robot in the future, there is an extra glowing arc in the center of their chests, which is the arc reactor. The sentinel robot at this time has been transformed by the Big Boss and Ivan Vanko, and it has obviously improved a lot. And according to Su-mu's guess, there is also the hand of Mr. Fantastic, because under the observation of the Six Eyes, he found that these sentinel robots are equipped with a lot of additional devices, one of which is the space disruption device and mutant suppression device that are very familiar to him. Oh, interesting. He gradually became excited. Facing the surging sentinel robot, Su-mu did not dodge, but rushed directly to the front. He instantly came to the front of the sentinel robot and punched it. Boom! The black and red lightning covered the entire sky nearby. The sentinel robot was hit by the black flash head-on and flew backwards immediately. Its body continued to shatter during flight and destroyed the sentinel robots on the flight path. After using the black flash, Su-mu entered the zone state and rushed straight up. The unlimited technique was opened, and Su-mu appeared 5 meters away in an instant. The next moment, he stretched out his palm and held down the head of the sentinel robot against the hot energy ray shot from the chrysanthemum face of the sentinel robot. The black and red singularity was generated in the palm of his hand, hitting the head of the sentinel robot face to face. At such a close distance, it was hit by the technique reversal even if the upper body of the sentinel robot was completely shattered. But even so, the Sentinel robot still wanted to regenerate, but it had no chance. The unlimited space slash continued to hit the body of the Sentinel robot, destroying everything within a 5-meter range centered on Su-mu. The generals saw the familiar scene of slaughter and cast questioning eyes towards Colonel Stryker again, but Colonel Stryker was well prepared and responded confidently. "Generals, please watch the next performance of the Sentinel robots." Buzz buzz buzz. The harsh roar emanated from many Sentinel robots, shaking the surrounding space. This strange vibration not only disrupted the space, forcibly cracked Su-mu's unlimited technique, but also instantly suppressed his mutant ability. Hundreds of Sentinel robots were arranged in a special formation, locking Su-mu in it like a cage. The power of the mutant suppression device and the space disruption device was geometrically improved under this special formation. If other mutants encountered this situation, it would be impossible to resist. Even Su-mu's mutant ability was suppressed when the suppression device was just activated. However, at this time, the 6i skill had reached level 4, and the accuracy of energy control was also exponentially improved compared to the original. At the moment when the suppression device was just activated, he completely adapted to the current situation. However, he did not show it, but let his body fall, allowing hundreds of Sentinel robots to attack him together. Not only because these attacks could not hurt him at all, but also because the system suddenly sent a prompt. Spell Forward King Experience +1. Congratulations, your skill Spell Forward King has been upgraded. Spell Forward King LV4, 1/5000. Create a strong suction force, turn the distance between multiple objects into negative infinity, create a small black hole, and the extreme repulsion is enough to compress the space. When using Spell Forward King to fly, the experience of Spell Forward King has been continuously improved. Until now, Spell Forward King has finally been upgraded again. In addition, this upgrade has an additional new change, that is, the teleportation of the Spell King is no longer a very high-speed movement, but a real space jump. The increased gravity can distort the time and space of the two places and overlap the space of the two places. Although it is not as good as the absolute control within the range of the unlimited spell, it is enough to greatly enhance Su-mu's speed. And the gravity is increased several times again, which undoubtedly makes the spell Cang, a skill that has been gradually eliminated as Su-mu's strength increases, play a huge power again. When the sharp arms of many Sentinel robots were about to pierce him, when many generals and Colonel Stryker showed extreme joy and thought that the White Devil was finally going to be killed, Su-mu's body went from extremely active to extremely quiet, and stopped in an instant. He looked up at the sky, looking at hundreds of strengthened Sentinel robots, with a hideous arc at the corner of his mouth, and said with a bad taste, "Earth-shattering star." Boom! A huge azure vortex quickly emerged in front of Su-mu, and then sucked everything in. P.S. Earth-shattering star, turn this black sphere into dark blue, and expand its volume several times, reaching Su-mu's level. Whether it was the Sentinel robots that used sharp arms to attack him, or the scorching energy rays, or even the surrounding sunlight from the sun, they were all attracted by the terrifying gravity and could not escape. The azure vortex gradually turned into dark blue, and the color continued to deepen until it turned into dark blue, like a real black hole swallowing everything around it. Please read on. Chapter 70, Void Style Level 2. Chapter 70 Virtual Style ZILV2. Under the disbelief of the generals and Colonel Stryker, the ground was torn apart by the powerful gravity, and the military base below was instantly destroyed. The buildings on the ground and the rocks below were also sucked into the terrifying black-blue black hole. The Sentinel robots above Su-mu were naturally no exception. First came the energy ray that arrived first, followed by the Sentinel robot closest to him, and then the Sentinel robot farthest away. During this period, the Sentinel robots farthest away obviously found something strange, and they immediately fled far away, but even if they kept changing their forms, no matter what kind of mutant abilities they used, they could not escape the range of gravity and were constantly pulled towards the terrifying black-blue black hole by the powerful gravity. After a while, a huge sphere appeared above the military base, and a large number of sentinel robots exposed on its surface kept struggling. They either transformed their own forms into ice, or into fire, or into other substances, but no matter how they kept changing, they could not escape from the powerful gravity. Facing gravity, one of the four fundamental forces of the universe, even if the sentinel robots have multiple mutant abilities and can enhance these mutant abilities through the arc reactor, it still has no effect. Seeing this scene, the generals who watched the battle through the surveillance satellite could no longer sit still. The previous calmness and composure disappeared, just like the first encirclement of the White Devil. When they saw the White Devil walk out of the nuclear bomb, their mood also underwent such a similar reversal. The generals immediately questioned Colonel Stryker again whether there was a corresponding way to deal with this situation, but unlike the previous times, Colonel Stryker looked at the screen in front of him with a gloomy face and could not speak for a long time. Seeing this, the generals suddenly turned pale, and the smart ones had hung up the communication, evacuated the military base, and went to other places for refuge. The third combat meeting against the White Devil ended in absolute failure again. A large amount of matter was attracted by the reversal of the technique, and then gathered with the black and blue vortex as the center. In an instant, a sphere with a large amount of matter gathered continued to form in the sky, and those sentinel robots were submerged in various substances. Even though Su-mu was no longer outputting energy, the huge sphere was still constantly attracting the surrounding matter, and its volume was still shrinking, while the gravity was constantly increasing. If Su-mu ignored this, the extremely high-density sphere formed by the Cang technique might really form a real black hole, until it swallowed the Earth. Through the six eyes, Su-mu looked at the sentinel robot trapped in the sphere, constantly changing its body shape, but completely unable to break free from gravity, and its body was constantly damaged under the pressure of terrifying gravity. It is worthy of being the joint work of the three geniuses. At this time, the robot has surpassed the final form of the sentinel robot in the future, but they are not the sentinels at that time, and he is not the mutant at that time. Extending his right hand and making a finger-snapping gesture, even if the pre-seal is not used, the power of the virtual style ZI has decreased, but after the six eyes and the technique Cang reached level 4, the power of the virtual style ZI is still far greater than when facing the destroyer armor. Repulsion and gravity entangled with each other, forming an imaginary sphere that continuously released purple lightning. The volume of the imaginary sphere at this time was enough to be several people in size, several times larger than before. Of course, the same power was also amplified several times. The terrifying imaginary sphere broke through the space, and then instantly destroyed the extremely high-density sphere that was about to form a black hole, piercing through the desolate desert, and then escaped from the Earth's gravity and disappeared at the end of the field of vision. After releasing the powerful virtual style this time, Su-mu's mind sounded the system's prompt. Virtual style experience +1. Congratulations, your skill virtual style has been upgraded. Virtual style LV2, 1/300 overlap the following technique Cang and the reversal technique to form an imaginary mass, releasing energy waves that can cut through space, and can manipulate the imaginary mass to a certain extent. After the virtual style was upgraded, a large number of memories appeared in Su-mu's mind again. With the help of the six eyes, all memories were completely absorbed in an instant, and Su-mu released the virtual style again. The two small spheres slowly blended in his hands to form an imaginary sphere the size of a thumb. However, unlike at LV1, Su-mu felt that he could make more changes to the purple imaginary sphere. The imaginary sphere in his hand gradually twisted, and finally broke away from the sphere, becoming a slender shape, and finally held in Su-mu's hand like a small dagger. Looking at the dagger constructed by imaginary mass in his hand, Su-mu was more looking forward to the higher level of virtual style. While the power of the LV2 virtual style was improved, the manipulability was also greatly improved. So what changes will happen to the LV3 virtual style? Controlling the dagger composed of imaginary mass and preventing it from hurting himself, Su-mu then threw the dagger down. The dagger immediately broke through the sound barrier, fell on the ground, and then went hundreds of meters underground. As it fell, it just hit the general who wanted to escape through the secret passage, and his body was completely annihilated. Next. After dealing with the general of this military base, Su-mu continued to fly towards the next location at high speed. And because the level of Cang in the reversal of the spell has been improved, his speed has also increased again, reaching Mach 100. Although this speed is not as fast as those with super speed, it has surpassed most superheroes. Moreover, Su-mu can not only use magic spells to reverse Cang and fold space, but also use unlimited magic spells to control space. When the portal is upgraded again, he can use the portal to reach any corner of the universe. Coupled with the extremely amazing reaction speed of the LV-46 eyes, even the speedster will be easily killed by Su-mu after he gets close to him. After the Cang technique was upgraded, the killing speed became faster and faster. In just a few hours, Su-mu killed most of the generals. After arriving at the last military base, Su-mu was just about to throw the imaginary sphere in his hand when he found an aircraft full of futuristic technology appearing in front of him. Then the plane stopped in front of him, and several mutants in yellow uniforms walked out of the plane. They were the X-Men. Professor. White Devil, stop! What you are doing now will undoubtedly destroy the balance between mutants and humans. Do you want to promote World War III? Faced with Professor X's questioning, Su-mu did not make any response. He ignored Professor. Huge energy spread outward from her body, like a huge phoenix sitting on the ground. This aroused Su-mu's interest. At this time, the Phoenix Girl was obviously integrated with the Phoenix power. She could control the power of the Phoenix power and could already pose a slight threat to him. But it's just a trace. No matter how powerful the Phoenix power is, what's in front of you is just a tiny fragment. He suddenly wanted to try if he could strip the Phoenix power from the Phoenix Girl and control this power for him. P.S. A new template will be launched soon, guess what it is? Please continue to read it. Chapter 71 Template Fusion Degree, 100. Please read on. Chapter 71 Template Fusion, 100%. Please read. Seeing Professor X being ignored, the hot-tempered Wolverine immediately rushed up and said to Professor X. Professor, why bother talking to him? Jean has completely mastered the Phoenix Force at this time. As long as we help Jean kill him, all problems will be solved. Wolverine's attack was a signal, and other X-Men also attacked one after another. Cyclops, Storm, Quicksilver, Phantom and others attacked Su-mu together. The only one Su-mu cared about was Phoenix, whose body floated in the low sky and confronted Su-mu. Powerful telekinesis emerged from her body, hot energy rushed out of her body, and fiery red energy swirled behind her, forming the wings of the Phoenix. The next moment, under the effect of the Phoenix Force, all the X-Men were covered with an extremely strong telekinetic shield, which protected them firmly inside without affecting their attacks. Wolverine arrived first, and his sharp adamantium claws pierced out of his flesh and blood, attacking Su-mu at a high speed. Su-mu was thinking about how to strip off the Phoenix Force at this time, and it was at this time that Wolverine's attack brought him back to his senses. Looking at Wolverine, who was constantly attacking outside his 5-meter range, and grinning at him, he put his two fingers together to make a sword finger and made a slight stroke. The space slash was constantly weakening the strength of the telekinetic shield, and then a black and red singularity was formed in the sword in an instant, flying towards Wolverine. The black and red singularity penetrated the telekinetic shield that was constantly weakened by the space slash, and was imprinted on Wolverine's chest. The flesh and blood on it were immediately crushed by the terrifying repulsive force, leaving only the shiny adamantium alloy to support Wolverine's body. He flew backwards at a speed dozens of times faster than when he came, piercing through the military base in front, leaving a gully of hundreds of meters. Soo-mu used 6 eyes to observe the military base and found that the general was still alive, which surprised him. This time, he wanted to use Wolverine's body to kill the general in the military base while knocking Wolverine away, but just now a figure ran over at a high speed and sent the general to the side without letting him be hit by Wolverine's body. That figure was Quicksilver, a mutant with super-fast mutation ability. Boom! Storm Girl flew into the air, and a large amount of lightning and storms swept towards Soo-mu. Facing these attacks, Soo-mu still did not respond, but checked his body that was constantly annihilating. At this time, the speed of his body annihilation was more than several times faster than in front of the White House. However, Soo-mu's reversal technique was also improved at this time. The LV3 reversal technique and the decomposition power of the Phoenix Force collided and dissolved each other, greatly reducing the speed of Soo-mu's body dissipation. According to Soo-mu's calculations, as long as Phoenix Girl keeps attacking him at the current speed, he will be in danger in about 10 minutes. It's really scary. The next moment, he took a step forward, and the technique turned the powerful gravity of Cang to overlap the two spaces, and Soo-mu instantly appeared in the military base. And the general was in front of him. Before Quicksilver could react, the terrifying repulsive force swept the entire military base with Soo-mu as the center. All things immediately shattered under the terrifying repulsive force. Even the general closest to Soo-mu had the telekinetic shield of the Phoenix Girl on his body, but facing the endless space slash and the terrifying repulsive force, it could only shatter in an instant and could not stop Soo-mu for a moment. When the terrifying repulsive force dissipated, Soo-mu suddenly turned to dodge. Quicksilver also had a telekinetic shield on his body. After the telekinetic shield resisted the first wave of repulsive attacks, he immediately left the range of repulsion, and then returned after everything calmed down, holding a weird energy weapon and attacking Soo-mu. This energy weapon actually also had a weak Phoenix Force in Soo-mu's energy vision, so he subconsciously dodged it. Facts have proved that Soo-mu's decision was right. This energy weapon, which looks like a laser sword, actually has the function of decomposing matter. Coupled with the continuous vibration of the energy on it, it can actually break through Soo-mu's unlimited technique and the unsolvable defense of energy absorption. There is no doubt that this must be the work of Mr. Fantastic. He can even make an atom displacer that can instantly annihilate a planet. Now, it is also very likely that the fragments of the Phoenix Force on the Phoenix Girl can be used to make weapons with the same ability to convert matter. Quicksilver used the weapon with the Phoenix Force in his hand to break through Soo-mu's defense and cut a small wound on his face. The bright red blood just flowed out of Soo-mu's wound and was repaired by the reversal technique. In a laboratory full of high-tech equipment, the Big Boss, Ivan Vanko, and Mr. Fantastic stared at the satellite monitoring on the screen. At this time, their physical condition was not good. In order to deal with the White Devil, they almost did not sleep during this period and spent all their efforts on the research of the White Devil's equipment. After a long period of continuous research, they developed 2 weapons that can cause damage to the White Devil. One of them is the latest version of the Sentinel robot, but just now, the Sentinel robot that they had high hopes for was killed by the White Devil in seconds and could not cause any damage to him at all. Seeing that the energy lightsaber infused with the power of the Phoenix could affect the White Demon, they immediately showed excitement. The White Demon finally bled. This meant that their research speed had finally caught up with the growth speed of the White Demon, and they finally had hope of defeating the White Demon. Using the energy lightsaber to scratch the White Demon's cheek, Quicksilver's confidence increased greatly. Since the energy lightsaber can hurt the White Demon, then with his extreme speed and the energy lightsaber, and with the help of others, he can definitely kill the White Demon. He rushed towards the White Demon again, and the time and space around him were abnormally slow, as if still, and only he kept moving. Quicksilver showed excitement, and he was going to use the energy lightsaber in his hand to pierce the White Demon's head. However, just after he approached the White Demon, he was shocked to find that the White Demon's azure eyes kept moving with his movement, and it was obvious that he had locked him. He could actually catch him at extreme speed and keep up with his speed. Then he saw the white demon in front of him suddenly disappear, and appeared in front of him the next moment. He just wanted to dodge and found that he was like being imprisoned in steel, unable to move at all. Because of this, his extreme speed mutation ability could no longer work. "You seem very confident." The whisper of the white devil sounded in his ears. He was about to say something, but the purple imaginary sphere easily shattered the telekinetic shield in front of him, and then annihilated his head, and continued to fly and annihilate everything in the path, until the general he saved was swallowed up, and finally disappeared at the end of the sight. 2 infinite gems flew out of the pocket space, circling around Su-mu, and a large amount of energy was continuously absorbed by him. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. A huge amount of energy poured into Su-mu's body, and then he put it into the template fusion degree. Finally, a dazzling golden light bloomed on the character panel. Template fusion degree, 100%. Using gravity to attract the energy lightsaber, holding the energy lightsaber, Su-mu smiled brightly at the X-Men and others, and the second round began. Please read it again. Chapter 72 New Character Template. Please read on. Chapter 72 New Character Template. After the character template fusion degree was increased to 100%, Su-mu felt that she had undergone earth-shaking transformation. A large amount of energy continuously emerges from the body, and then continuously flows through the limbs and bones, strengthening his body. This energy allowed him to fully master the power from Gojo Satoru's character panel. If Gojo Satoru's various skills previously relied on the system to be used, only energy absorption was the skill he mastered. Now with the help of this energy, all the skills he currently masters are completely integrated with himself. Even if the system is destroyed now, it will not affect him at all. Moreover, the zone state that originally required Black Flash to activate has become his normal state without any consumption. More importantly, a large number of advanced ways to use the power of spells to return to the world emerged in his mind, including spell binding, enchantment, etc. Looking at the X-Men and others who were extremely sad and angry because of Quicksilver's death, the smile on Su-mu's face became more and more joyful. His middle finger was wrapped around his index finger, making a prefix seal. The field unfolds infinite space. P.S. Infinite space, no lower limit inside. The entire military base, as well as a large area around it, was pulled into the inside without any lower limit. Everyone within the coverage area of the infinite space, except Su-mu, fell into absolute rigidity. They are forced to carry out countless repeated perceptions and conductions in order to live, so that their brains are filled with countless complex information, and they can only stay there, feeling everything, but unable to do anything. To Su-mu's surprise, Phoenix Girl and Professor. Su-mu was not surprised that Phoenix Girl and Professor. But what can they do if they regain their senses? Su-mu took a step forward, disappeared from the spot, and appeared around Cyclops. Professor X immediately understood what he wanted to do and quickly said to Phoenix Girl. "Chin, stop him quickly, he wants to kill Scott." Phoenix Girl took action instantly, and her powerful material decomposition ability enveloped Su-mu, constantly destroying his body. However, the material decomposition ability was offset by the reversal spell. This ability, which could easily kill Apocalypse, could not cause Su-mu any harm at all. What an impact! After that, the powerful telekinesis rushed towards Su-mu like a real entity. The terrifying power collided with the unlimited spell, causing ripples in the void, but it still couldn't stop Su-mu. Su-mu stretched out his finger and pointed at the center of Cyclops' eyebrows. The violent power poured into Cyclops' body. The surface of his body immediately lit up with a dazzling light, and was instantly torn apart by the violent energy and turned into powder. No! Seeing her lover killed by Su-mu, the Phoenix Girl lost control of her emotions. Crimson veins spread from the surface of her skin, and all the phoenix power in her body was released. Together with herself, she was ignited by the hot flames, spreading her hot wings of fire in the air like a real phoenix. The power of material decomposition expanded again, and Seo-Mu's palms dissipated visibly to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, his fingertips turned into nothingness. But he didn't have the slightest fear. His inner joy had reached its extreme at this time. He said slowly, "My recovery ability, reversal of spells, can multiply the originally negative spells to obtain positive spells, so as to repair the body." Based on the experience of revealing the spell in his mind, Seo-Mu slowly talked about all his abilities. When he just informed Professor Get It Fixed, he did not stop, but continued. And the pinnacle skill of incantation, field expansion, can release a special birth field. Any moves in the field will have a sure hit effect. Buzz. Professor Chin, deal with him quickly, he is using unknown methods to strengthen his strength. After hearing Professor like this, his fingers danced slightly, and a red line immediately appeared on Professor X's neck, and then his body instantly shattered under the endless space slash. The space slash, which was originally limited due to its distance, has become a terrifying move with extremely wide coverage under the reinforcement of domain expansion. No. Seeing the death of Professor, the power gradually disintegrates without stopping at all. But everything she did was useless. After the technique was revealed, Seo-Mu's body recovery speed far exceeded the limit of her material decomposition speed. With the waving of Seo-Mu's fingers, 1 X-Men gradually died: Iceman, Phantom Cat, Storm Girl. They can't even resist. Under the influence of infinite space, they know everything, but they can't do anything. Leaving behind a few useful X-Men, Seo-Mu looked at the girl with the power of the Phoenix with contempt. He said disdainfully, "A lucky person who accidentally obtained the ancient power, but because he could not bear this power, constantly caused tragedy. It's ridiculous." "No, what do you know? You bastard, I must kill you." Seo-Mu disappeared from the spot in an instant and came to the Phoenix girl. Because of his mockery, the power of material decomposition was strengthened again in the Phoenix girl's collapsed mood, and because he was too close to the Phoenix girl, this power was strengthened again, so that Seo-Mu's body was constantly reorganized in the collapse and regeneration. However, Seo-Mu, who has 6 eyes, knows that it seems that the collapse and regeneration are equal, but in fact, the speed of regeneration is far greater than the limit of the collapse speed. He stretched out his hand to the Phoenix girl, then pressed her face, and smiled brightly. "It's a pity that you are just a fragment after all." Purple lightning burst out from Seo-Mu's palm, completely enveloping the Phoenix girl and instantly obliterating her. Jean Grey, the most perfect host of the Phoenix Force, was killed, leaving only the eternal Phoenix Force floating in the air. However, just when Seo-Mu wanted to forcibly collect this fragment of the Phoenix Force, the Phoenix Force suddenly disappeared from the original place, crossing the endless latitude, and disappeared from Seo-Mu's perception. Seo-Mu shook his head with some disappointment. The Phoenix Force was indeed not so easy to obtain. However, he quickly returned to normal. It was just a fragment of the Phoenix Force. When the portal level was upgraded to the level that could travel through parallel universes, he would have too many opportunities to study. With the energy flowing in his body, Seo-Mu activated the Mind Gem and used the Mind Gem to control the remaining X-Men, then opened the system panel and looked forward to checking the changes in the system panel. Template Fusion, 100%. You have completely mastered all the abilities of Gojo Satoru. You have obtained the character template, Accelerator. You have obtained the skill, Vector Operation LV1. Please read it again. Chapter 73 Vector Operations. Vector Operation LV1, 1/100 Manipulate the direction of most vectors to create fictitious vector axes, including force, speed, acceleration, displacement, impulse, momentum, electric field strength, magnetic induction strength, etc. The template is easier to unlock in the early stage of acquisition, and the energy in the body is transferred. The template fusion degree instantly reaches 1%, and Su-mu also unlocks new skills. After seeing the new character templates and new skills, Su-mu was very satisfied. Although he is not the kind of person who can destroy the world at every turn, Accelerator is also extremely powerful. P.S. Accelerator, normal. The essence of his superpower is vector manipulation. He can manipulate all vectors, and he can reflect any power he understands. If he understands the power of God, he can even kill gods. In addition, he also has the ability to advance, which is the wings of the unknown. The unknown wings are divided into 4 forms, namely black wings, white wings, colorless wings, and platinum wings, and their power increases in sequence. The unknown wings can improve Accelerator's abilities in all aspects and greatly increase his strength. Only the white wings surpass most saints. And the unknown wings are not Accelerator's final form. His final stage is the abyss state, crossing the abyss, connected with the overall consciousness of Q-Demon and Misaka network, and mastering the power of the third tree. In this abyss state, he can even release a gun that can even obliterate the demon's immortality. You must know that the demon god is a godlike existence in the forbidden world, omnipotent, immortal, and Accelerator can compete with the demon god in the abyss state, which shows how powerful he is. Therefore, Accelerator is far stronger than Gojo Satoru, so that it is much more difficult to improve the fusion of his character template than Gojo Satoru. But Su-mu is not worried. At this time, he has infinite gems. What limits him is not energy, but the speed of absorbing energy. As long as he continues to absorb the energy of the Infinity Stones, he will be able to unlock Accelerator's character template to 100% sooner or later. He is already looking forward to the next character template. Take out another symbiote whose consciousness has been erased from the pocket space, and control it to cover the whole body to form clothing. This symbiote, specially modified by Su-mu, does not have the weaknesses of ordinary symbiotes, is not afraid of fire and sound waves, and will give the host strong physical fitness and recovery capabilities. If an ordinary person coexists with the symbiote, he will immediately become a Spider-Man level powerhouse. But even though the symbiote was very powerful compared to mortals, when it joined the battle between Su-mu and Phoenix Girl, it was still easily annihilated by its powerful ability to decompose matter. The gap between it and Su-mu is just like the gap between it and mortals. It comes from absolute suppression. Thinking of the Phoenix Girl, Su-mu suddenly felt a pity. The Phoenix Girl in this universe had obviously less Phoenix power, but even a smaller fragment could still exert such power. This made him even more curious about the Phoenix power. And he was also curious about where this fragment of the Phoenix power would go, and whether it would be absorbed by Phoenix Girls in other parallel universes. Mr. Fantastic, the Big Boss and Ivan Vanko looked at the images transmitted from the surveillance satellite and fell into silence. Colonel Stryker on the side suddenly swung his fist and hit the table in front of him, knocking over the ornaments on the table and rolling them to the ground. He had no idea why the Sentinel robot and the X-Men didn't kill the White Devil when they went on an expedition together. He couldn't figure out why the White Devil's strength increased so rapidly. When he was first discovered, even the kinetic energy of ordinary people's punches could not be fully absorbed, but after a period of growth, he was now able to defeat 200 Sentinel robots and X-Men. This growth rate is so fast that it is terrifying. This has never happened since the discovery of mutants. He suppressed his anger and asked the 3 doctors behind him. 3 of you, do you have any other ways to kill the White Demon? The 3 of them were silent together. The growth rate of the White Devil had exceeded their research and development speed. Just like the siege just now, if it were the previous White Devil, he would have been easily killed by the Phoenix Girl, but now the strength of the White Devil has been improved exponentially. Even the Phoenix Girl who mastered the power of the Phoenix could do nothing to him and was easily killed. Beat. In the end, Mr. Fantastic stood up. He hesitated for a while and finally told his plan. I still have a final plan, but this plan comes with huge risks. If I don't have to, then I will never use it easily. Mr. Fantastic's words raised hopes in Stryker, and even the big boss and Ivan Vanko were attracted by his words. During this period of mutual cooperation, they have understood that Mr. Fantastic is the smartest person among them, but even so, the previous Sentinel and the energy lightsaber that can break through the White Demon's defense have exhausted all his knowledge reserves. But they didn't expect that Mr. Fantastic had other backup methods, which was obviously beyond their expectations. Seeing that all three people were focusing on him, Mr. Fantastic finally decided to tell his plan. I have researched a device that can travel through parallel universes and summon my peers in other parallel universes. If my isotope and I work together to study the technology against the White Demon, then it is very likely that we can surpass the speed at which the White Demon's strength increases, and thus kill the White Demon. However, this device is almost uncontrollable, and the isotope summoned is completely random. He may be a lawful Reed like me, or a crazy Reed. Colonel Stryker was silent. If this plan succeeds, then they are likely to kill the White Demon, but if it fails and the crazy Mr. Fantastic is summoned, then the current situation will be even worse. At this time, the big boss put forward a different opinion. Why not take Mr. Fantastic's plan as the final plan? Now you can adopt my plan. Your plan. Because gamma rays created me and also created the Hulk, so I have always had a plan, a conjecture. That is to combine the energy of cosmic rays and the energy of gamma rays to create a giant that is more powerful than the Hulk. I call it the Red Giant Plan. If you help me combine the Red Hulk project with the Sentinel project, and use multiple arc reactors to provide Red Hulk with energy and mutant abilities, and use mutant suppression devices and space disruption devices as well as Mr. Fantastic's recently developed matter decomposition lightsaber, we will create a monster that can rival the White Devil. However, this monster is created by us, so of course we control it. I believe that even with the growth rate of the White Devil, it cannot rival the Red Hulk that we have created together. Colonel Stryker's face lit up, and when he was about to agree, Ivan Vanko said quietly, "Have you forgotten that the growth rate of the White Devil is still accelerating? Please read on." Chapter 74 Reversal Technique Level 4. After receiving Ivan Vank's reminder, Mr. Fantastic and the others fell silent again. Their newly raised confidence was immediately shattered, but they were still prepared to try. They were more willing to try than to uncontrollably summon Mr. Fantastic's peers from the parallel universe. Make Red Hulk. Using the Mind Stone to control the remaining X-Men, and sliding his finger slightly to open the portal, Soo-Mew led the X-Men and others back to New York, and then back to Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters was built on an old castle. It was noon when Soo-Mew and others arrived. The dappled sunlight shines on the castle, imprinting everything with a layer of gold. A large number of young students were active inside the castle. Obviously, most of the students did not know that the X-Men and others were defeated by the White Devil. Most of them were even killed. The only ones who remained had their wills twisted and became slaves of the White Devil. Looking at the joyful campus ahead, Soo-Mew couldn't help but lament that Professor. He couldn't bear to ruin the peace here. Wait a minute. Soo-Mew suddenly noticed something interesting, why he seemed to be the villain in the movie. He immediately shook his head. He was not a villain, but a savior who led mutants to the right path. You are, the White Devil. Suddenly, a girl with a trace of white hair hanging on her forehead looked at the white-haired man in front of her in shock, with an expression on her face in disbelief. She immediately thought of something, and her face suddenly became sad. Where's the professor? Where's Teacher Chin? What did you do to them? Teacher Hank, Teacher Logan, why do you appear behind the White Devil? Didn't you go to encircle and suppress him? It seems that not all students are aware of the actions of the X-Men and others, at least the little naughty ones are aware of it. Hearing the little naughty shout, several figures immediately rushed out of the room and came to the little naughty side. After seeing the scene in front of them, their expressions changed drastically. It was obvious that they all knew what the X-Men and others had done. Among them, Sunspot, who had the most fiery temper, ignited his body and turned himself into a fire elemental being. He rushed towards Su-mu and asked, "Where are the professor and them? What did you do to Hank and the others?" Obviously, he immediately realized something was wrong and discovered that Hank and others were being controlled by Su-mu. Looking at Sunspot rushing towards him on his own, Su-mu did not open his unlimited spell, but walked slowly towards the raging flames. When he reached a distance of 5 meters from Sunspot, his body flashed and appeared in front of Sunspot. He pinched his lava-like head. He is a peace-loving person, and he does not want to kill any students at Xavier School for the Gifted at this time. "But why are you forcing me?" Su-mu said helplessly. He sighed, and black and red lightning flashed in his palm. Sunspot's head was immediately crushed by the terrifying force, and the hot brain and blood were excluded from Su-mu's body, making it impossible to get close to him. Sunspot's rapidly hypothermic body was bounced away by the unlimited spell. Under the angry roars of Little Naughty and others, yellow gems shone around Su-mu, lighting up the entire Xavier School for Gifted youngsters. The panic on the faces of the Little Naughty and others immediately disappeared, replaced by joy. Among them, the Little Naughty boy came to Su-mu and said with a smile, "Professor Su-mu, you have defeated Professor X and are back." Su-mu stroked the Little Naughty head, ruffled her hair completely, then said lightly with a smile, "Of course, Professor X has been eliminated by us." "That's great." The Little Naughty girl smiled brightly from the bottom of her heart. At this point, the Suidun Bureau has gained a lot of strength. Looking at the many mutants looking at him longingly in front of him, the director is very pleased. At this time, there are only 3 X-Men left alive, namely Hank the Beast, Mystique, and Wolverine. They all have different functions for Su-mu. Among them, Beast Hank's research and development capabilities are not as good as Tony Stark's, but they should not be underestimated. As a repairman for the Ark, he is definitely overqualified. Then the adamantium alloy in Wolverine's body has been fused with his self-healing factor to become a renewable adamantium alloy. If his bones are continuously removed, the adamantium alloy will become a renewable resource. Su-mu couldn't help but lament that he was still too kind. Not only did he let his enemy go, he also found him a new and promising job. Finally, there is Mystique. She can transform into various people. This ability is what Su-mu likes the most. Of course, Su-mu is not doing it for entertainment, but because of her mutant ability that can transform into anyone. Mystique is a natural agent and will definitely be the backbone of Su-mu in the future. After teleporting Beast Hank to the Ark, and then dismissing Wolverine, Su-mu led Mystique to the new Seaview villa she purchased some time ago. Ordering the Hollywood actress to give Mystique various teachings, Su-mu began to hone her skills in the Imperial service. The first skill he practiced was not the newly acquired vector manipulation, but the reversal technique. In the past, he had been constantly fighting against Phoenix Girl's material decomposition ability, and his experience in reversing the spell had increased significantly, and he was about to upgrade at this time. And judging from the current time, Jane Foster was about to deliver the takeout. He didn't want to wait for the takeout but not be able to take it out. After all, even if he killed Jane Foster, the reality gem would not condense into solid. Enjoying the services of Hollywood women and the constantly changing body of Mystique, Su-mu continued to use energy to hurt many Hollywood actresses, and then used the reversal technique to repair their injuries. The system's prompts kept ringing in his ears. Energy points +1. Reversal technique experience +1. Reversal technique experience +1. Reversal technique experience +1. With Su-mu's continuous efforts, the system finally sounded different prompts. Reversal technique experience +1. Congratulations, your skill reversal technique has been upgraded. Reversal technique LV4, 1/5000. It turns the negative energy of the cursed power into positive energy, has a strong healing effect, and reverses things to their original state. It can be used on others and non-living things. A lot of information emerged in his mind, and with a sudden shiver, Su-mu had completely digested the information in his mind. The LV4 reversal technique has indeed also achieved a huge improvement. Not only has the healing effect been improved several times, but the nature of the healing has also changed. If the original reversal technique was only for treatment, then the current reversal technique is optimization, which can transform matter into its original state. Therefore, the reversal technique can be used on inanimate objects. And after the reversal technique reaches level 4, Su-mu's control over his body has reached its peak. He can control his youth at will and constantly transform between childhood and old age. After digesting all the information, Su-mu grinned. The reversal technique has finally been upgraded, so the only thing left is Jane Foster's express delivery. Please read on. Chapter 75 Portal LV3. When Su-mu was enjoying the services of Hollywood actresses and Mystique at the Sea View Villa, there were several more figures on the battlefield that was originally covered with yellow sand and nothing was left. The leader among them has a resolute face, wears a mysterious helmet, and is controlling the metal attached to his body to float in the air. He is one of the most powerful mutants today, Magneto, the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants who has been officially wanted for a long time. Magneto looked at the scene in front of him, which was like a scene exploded by several nuclear bombs, with an extremely complicated expression. He initially came here to provide support to prevent Professor. And judging from the remaining blood and flesh and blood remains at the scene, the X-Men were undoubtedly defeated. This battle is no longer a siege, but a massacre of the White Devil against the Sentry robots, the X-Men, and others. And judging from the traces on the scene, the Sentinel robot and most of the X-Men have no power to resist. I am afraid that only Jean Grey, who has mastered the power of the Phoenix, can compete with the White Devil, but she was also defeated with the power of thunder. The White Demon is more powerful than he imagined. Even Jean, who has fully mastered the power of the Phoenix, is no match for him. There is no doubt that in this battle, most of the X-Men have died, including his old friend Professor X, the leader of the X-Men. This is also the reason why his mood is extremely complicated. He and Charles had been friends for decades, from working together to prevent the Black Emperor from launching a nuclear war to later parting ways, falling in love and killing each other. Along the way, they separated and reunited, but they never had the idea of killing each other. Because they are like family to each other. At this time, Charles died, and died in the process of encircling and suppressing fellow mutants. If he died because of something else, Magneto would absolutely avenge Charles. But Charles died because of the suppression of fellow mutants, which left him not knowing what to do. Despite this, if Charles was killed by someone else, even another mutant, he would most likely kill that person, because before the Black King killed his mother, he killed a fellow mutant Black Emperor. But why the White Devil? There is no doubt that the strength of the White Devil at this time has far exceeded that of other mutants. The White Devil is not on the same level as the others at all. If they seek revenge against the White Devil for Charles, then the fate of the X-Men today will most likely be the fate of the Brotherhood of Mutants in the future. I'm sorry, Charles, I can't possibly risk the entire Brotherhood of Mutants to go and avenge you. He has to think about his other companions in the Brotherhood of Mutants. Su-mu then enjoyed a relatively peaceful time, during which his strength increased in an orderly manner. During this period, his body fully recovered and absorbed the energy of the Infinity Stones again. With the help of this huge energy, Accelerator's character template was greatly promoted. At this time, it has reached Template Fusion Degree, 8%. Based on the abilities mastered by Accelerator in his memory, Su-mu believes that when the template fusion reaches 10%, new skills will be unlocked. One day, in the open-air swimming pool of the Seaview Villa, Su-mu was exercising in the sea breeze and practicing her skills. The system prompts in my ears are endless. Energy point +1. 6 eyes experience +1. Portal experience +1. Energy absorption experience +1. After a while, different prompts came from the system. Portal experience +1. Congratulations, your skill portal has been upgraded. Portal LV3, 1/1000 consume magic power to open a portal to any area of the current latitude/universe. Magic power can be replaced by energy. It is far easier to gain experience for low-level skills than for high-level skills, and the experience required for skill upgrades is also lower. Even if Su-mu focuses on training core skills such as energy absorption, the LV2 portal is the first to be upgraded. After the portal reached level 3, a large amount of information poured into Su-mu's mind and was absorbed by him instantly. The skill information at level 3 can no longer put any burden on Su-mu. After completely absorbing the memories in his mind, Su-mu already understood the various abilities of the LV3 portal. At this time, he no longer needs gestures, he can directly open the teleportation gate with just his thoughts, and can open several teleportation gates at the same time. The maximum area of the teleportation gate will also be greatly increased. What's more important is that he can go to the current universe or any area of latitude without restrictions. This also made Su-mu interested in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Judging from the current time, Star-Lord should be about to obtain the Power Stone. So as long as the express delivery of Jane Foster's gem arrives and the Power Stone is obtained, Su-mu will have collected 4 Infinity Stones. All that's left is the Time Stone and the Soul Stone to collect all the Infinity Stones and be able to snap that finger. Just as Su-mu was thinking about how to obtain the Time Stone from the Supreme Mage and how to obtain the Soul Stone that could only be obtained by sacrificing a loved one, his 6 eyes suddenly caught something. Su-mu grinned, sipped the expensive red wine, and waited calmly. After a while, several figures approached his beach villa and rang the doorbell. It seems that Hydra has learned the lesson from last time, and this time they are obviously much more respectful. He ordered the artificial intelligence given by Tony, Monday, to open the door of the villa. Several agents in leather shoes walked into the room and came to the edge of the outdoor swimming pool. The leader was Hydra agent Hitwill, whom Su-mu had met once before, at the landing point of Thor's hammer. At this time, he came as a representative of Hydra. When he came to Su-mu, Hitwill said to Su-mu respectfully, "Dear Mr. Su-mu, this is the obelisk you need. I will give it to you on behalf of Hydra. I hope you will not interfere with our plan in the future. Of course, after the plan succeeds, we will give you an extra gift." As the strength of the White Devil grows, Hydra no longer dares to ask him for assistance, nor does it dare to ask him for the space cube. At this time, they only ask the White Devil not to interfere with them in the future plan, so that they will be satisfied. However, they still expect the obelisk to kill the White Devil, so that the biggest obstacle for Hydra to rule the world will disappear. But they don't have much expectation for this. They don't think that the obelisk can really kill such a powerful White Devil. Su-mu held the obelisk in his hand and kept observing. The moment he touched it, a strange energy wanted to erode his body, but it was instantly absorbed by the energy of LV4. Although the obelisk has no effect on him at this time, it is also worth studying, at least it can make a lot of fun. After thinking for a while, Su-mu focused his attention on Hitwill in front of him. Although he tried his best to remain calm, the details of his body still could not cover up the fear in his heart. He grinned and chuckled. "Don't worry, I won't kill you if you knock on the door this time." Just when Hitwill breathed a sigh of relief, several agents beside him suddenly turned into blood mist without warning, and the minced meat and residue sprayed on his face, staining his vision red. Then he heard the whisper of the devil in front of him. Unfortunately, they didn't knock on the door. Please read more. Chapter 76. The second express delivery arrives. Even after leaving the White Devil's villa and returning to the space carrier, Hitwell was still afraid. Even though he was a top agent with a very high psychological quality, he never wanted to try again because he felt powerless in the face of creatures far more powerful than himself. After knocking on the door of Alexander Pierce's office and getting permission, Hitwell walked in. On the way back to the space carrier, Hitwell informed Alexander Pierce of all the matters of the operation. When he saw Pierce at this time, he immediately asked in confusion, "Sir, will the White Devil really abide by the agreement and not hinder our plan?" Alexander Pierce turned around and looked at his proud subordinate with his back to the French window. Since the death of Crossbones, Hitwell has been his only right-hand man. He looked a little tired, and said helplessly, "Even if he doesn't comply, we have no way. The reason why we gave him the obelisk was just to delay time. According to the news from my ears and eyes, the military has a new plan against the White Devil. We need to appease the White Devil until that plan is implemented. But the military's plan against the White Devil has never succeeded." Hitwell subconsciously retorted. Alexander Pierce was silent for a moment, and after a moment he continued. "Our current main task is still the Insight Plan. As long as this plan is implemented, Hydra will become the ruler of the world. When we master all the power in the world, we will definitely find a way to kill the White Devil. And, I can't wait to see Nick Fury's horrified expression. I wonder what he will do when he finds out that Shield is already Snake Shield." At this point, Alexander Pierce's frown because of the White Devil finally relaxed, and his face became happy again. Seeing this, Hitwell said respectfully with great foresight, "Your plan will surely be successfully implemented, Hydra. Long live Hydra!" Alexander Pierce also smiled and said, "Hail Hydra!" The two former Hydra agents guarding the office door outside the door, now loyal agents of the SUA Shield Bureau, vaguely heard the movement inside the door and smiled at each other. They are also looking forward to it. After sending Hitwell away, Su Mu attracted the clothes over, put on the clothes and stomped his feet gently on the ground. Through the precise energy manipulation of the six eyes, the scattered energy dissipated from his feet, annihilating all the bloodstains without leaving a trace. The surrounding environment immediately returned to cleanliness, and then used the mind gem to appease the emotions of many Hollywood actresses, and Su Mu continued to practice his skills. But before he could practice for long, the six eyes caught two figures flying towards him at high speed again. However, unlike the impatience of the Hydra agents, after seeing the people coming clearly, Su Mu's eyes were full of surprise, because his express delivery had arrived. With a slight movement of his mind, a portal quickly opened in front of his eyes. The speed was so fast that Thor, who was flying, could not react immediately and suddenly crashed into it. He suddenly saw Su Mu in front of him, and his face changed drastically. Because he was suddenly teleported, he could no longer take back his beloved hammer and was about to hit Su Mu. Even though he knew that Su Mu was very powerful, he still didn't think Su Mu could resist being hit head-on by Mjolnir. Because this was a weapon blessed by Father Odin. If you don't have a power close to Odin, or even surpass Odin, it is almost impossible to take it head-on. He warned loudly. "Su Mu, get out of the way." But Su Mu was unmoved. His eyes were completely on Jane Foster, who was hugged by Thor. In the energy vision of the six eyes, the surging red energy kept entangled in her body. Such terrifying energy was hotter than the sun and more majestic than the Milky Way. If this energy exploded instantly, it would be enough to easily destroy the entire galaxy. However, such a strange energy was entangled with Jane Foster, a mortal, in a special fluid state, and did not kill her immediately, but deprived her of her life at a slow speed. Obviously, this is the reality gem, the express delivery that Su Mu has been waiting for a long time. P.S. The red one is the reality gem. Facing the hammer that was about to hit him, Su Mu stretched out a finger and gently tapped on Thor's hammer. Vector operation. The powerful impact from Thor's hammer was immediately reflected and rushed towards Thor without any loss. And because of his emotional excitement, Su-mu subconsciously released the repulsive force and applied it to Thor's hammer, causing Thor's hammer to fly backwards at a faster speed. Boom! A thunder sounded in the sky, and Thor's hammer hit Thor's chest, knocking him out instantly. Hit by the terrifying force, Thor suddenly flew out of the sea view villa and crashed into the sea surface in the distance, forming a huge wave tens of meters high. Su-mu ignored Thor, who was knocked away, grabbed Jane Foster's hand, and immediately performed the reversal spell and used the 6 eyes to sense the reaction of the reality gem, and immediately felt sure. The level 4 reversal spell can really restore the reality gem to a solid state. Su-mu held Jane Foster's hand tightly and said to her affectionately, "Miss Jane, don't worry, I will definitely cure you." Jane Foster pointed to the huge waves that were about to submerge the sea view villa dozens of meters behind Su-mu, and was about to say something. Su-mu thought of Thor, so he held Jane Foster's palm tightly with one hand, continuously performing the reversal spell, and stretched the other hand behind him. A huge repulsive force emanated from his palm, instantly dispersing the huge waves dozens of meters high, smoothing the sea surface, and then the terrifying gravity was released from his palm, and Su-mu accurately acted on Thor hundreds of meters below the sea surface, and then attracted him. Under the huge gravity, Thor flew towards him quickly, even the Thor's hammer in his hand was no exception, and the speed was faster than when he actively used Thor's hammer. Being hit so hard by Mjolnir, even Thor, who had not awakened the power of Thor, could not bear it. His consciousness was blurred at this time, and it took a while to come back to his senses. The moment he saw Su-mu, he immediately recalled what had just happened, and looked at Su-mu in shock. "Su-mu, you actually stopped Mjolnir with just one finger." In Thor's cognition, except for the father god Odin, no one has ever been able to resist Mjolnir head-on, let alone using only one finger. Because if someone can resist Mjolnir head-on, it means that person can pick up Thor's hammer and gain the power of Thor. This makes him feel like he's been cheated. Because he's about to get the reality gem, he's in a good mood, so Su-mu smiled brightly at Thor. "It's just a hammer, why are you so shocked? But your girlfriend is really good." "Oh no, I mean the reality gem in her body is really good. I can help your girlfriend take out the reality gem, so you can rest assured to hand your girlfriend to me." Knowing that Jane was about to be saved, Thor was not as happy as he imagined, and he felt that the green on his head was even more intense. P.S. Some people say that Colonel Stryker is still alive because the protagonist is too saintly, but that's not true. Colonel Stryker knows the horror of mutants, so he hides very well. Even SHIELD can't find his location. But don't worry, in the next Red Giant incident, he will be dead soon. Please keep reading. Chapter 77 The Cowardly Mortals of Midgard. Jane was invaded by ether particles in an abandoned warehouse. At this time, the ether particles were constantly eroding her life. If the ether particles were not stripped out of her body as soon as possible, she would die quickly. "Because you once told us that Jane came to see you when she became ill, so we came here." "Sure enough, you have the ability to heal Jane." Although he felt like he was being cheated, Soul still looked at Su-mu gratefully. Through precise energy manipulation, Su-mu continuously separated the ether particles from Jane Foster. Perhaps sensing Su-mu's behavior, the ether particles spontaneously generated energy fluctuations and attacked Su-mu. However, because no one was controlling it, it was just an instinctive counterattack to protect himself. It could not have much impact on Su-mu, and was easily resolved by Su-mu. Keeping one hand in contact with Jane Foster, Su-mu smiled at Saul. "You should just come to me. Jane's situation is too special now. The ether particles are blended with her body. In this situation, even Odin can hardly remove the ether particles from her body. Maybe the only way is to deal with it. Only dark elves who have studied ether particles can do it. Of course, I can also, and can even help Jane recover her body that was damaged by etheric particles, and help her return to normal so that she will not suffer from cancer in the future. Cancer? Will Jane get cancer in the future? Sol asked nervously after hearing So Mu's words. So Mu nodded and explained. After all, ether particles have extremely high radiation, but compared to this matter, I suggest you still care about Asgard. When the ether particles appear, the 9 realms will be reunited, and the Dark Elves will naturally wake up from their slumber. And the first thing they did when they woke up was naturally to attack their old enemy Asgard. Now that Odin is old and you have left Asgard, Asgard no longer has anyone who can compete head-on with the cursed warriors, so Asgard is probably in danger now. Thor's expression changed drastically. He naturally knew about the grudges between the Dark Elves and Asgard, and understood that what So Mu said was most likely the truth, so he shouted to the sky. Heimdall, let me go back quickly. But even though Thor called many times, Heimdall still didn't respond. At this time, Thor suddenly felt strong uneasiness in his heart, and realized that what So Mu said was true. There must be something wrong with Heimdall, otherwise he would not fail to respond to his request. Damn it, what should I do? I can't return to Asgard without the Rainbow Bridge. Thor is extremely anxious. If Asgard is really attacked by the Dark Elves when he leaves, then he will fall into eternal regret. Just when he was extremely anxious and unable to do anything, So Mu put his other hand on his shoulder, and the powerful force from his arm almost made him fall to the ground, just like what he liked to do to Loki before, but now he has become the victim. So Mu's voice came from the side, I can help you return to Asgard, and I can also help you repel the Dark Elves, but after everything is over, you need to hand over the Box of Frost, the Eternal Fire, and the Infinity Gauntlet. Me, as a reward for helping you. After hearing So Mu's words, Saul was overjoyed and immediately agreed. Okay, as long as you help me fight off the Dark Elves, then I will give these 3 treasures to you. Hearing Thor's nod, So Mu grinned. Now Odin is not dead yet. Although Odin is old and cannot take action easily, this does not mean that his strength is weakened. On the contrary, because Asgardians have a special physique that becomes more powerful as they age, Odin is also the most powerful when they are about to die. The reason why you can't take action easily is just because the energy in your body is too strong and your old body can't bear it, which makes you unable to take action. Once Odin takes action with all his strength, he will definitely die, but before he dies, he will explode with huge power. Even then, even the Supreme Mage will not be his opponent. So if possible, So Mu would not rob openly at all, but would use transactions to get what he wanted from Asgard. Thor looked at So Mu doubtfully, observing how he helped him return to Asgard. Then he saw So Mu tap the void in front of him, and a portal that continuously spattered bright sparks was formed in front of him. Thor was stunned. He recognized that this was the portal that suddenly appeared in front of him before, and the other end of the portal is the Rainbow Bridge that he is familiar with. Unexpectedly, this method of transmission can be used to transmit such a long distance. According to So Mu's performance, this method of transmission is extremely fast and extremely convenient. It is actually a more powerful method of transmission than the Rainbow Bridge. Use the screen in the movie to open the portal to Asgard. Unlike the low-level portals, the LV3 portal does not require So Mu to go there, and you can open the portal anywhere in the screen. According to his guess, the LV4 portal will not require a screen. You only need to know your own needs to open the portal to the target location. He only needs to wait until then, he can easily find Striker's whereabouts, and then crush this overestimating insect to death. Opening the portal, So Mu stepped out and pulled Jane Foster back to Asgard. At this time, Asgard is completely caught in the flames of war. Various black-skinned and pointed-eared dark elves and prisoners released from the dungeon are constantly destroying and fighting against Asgard warriors. Heimdall, who was guarding the Rainbow Bridge, was obviously besieged by a dozen dark elves, so that he was exhausted from dealing with the attacks of many dark elves and could not respond to Thor's request to open the Rainbow Bridge to help Thor return to Asgard. When the portal was opened, the dazzling portal immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked at the portal nervously, not knowing whether the arrival was an enemy or a friend. They first saw Soo-Mew and Jane Foster walking out of the portal, and immediately fell into silence. After all, they had never known that there were such strong men in the 9 realms. However, when they saw Thor walking out later, the warriors of Asgard immediately roared excitedly. Thor! 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 In contrast to the warriors of Asgard, the dark elves and others fell into panic. Thor has fought in the 9 realms for thousands of years, and almost everyone knows the name of Thor. Seeing Thor's return at this time, they all looked ugly, because the Asgardians had an extra powerful fighting force. At this time, a tall dark elf walked out of the many dark elf warriors, and he suddenly rushed towards Thor. P.S. Cursed warrior. Facing the dark elves who provoked him, the hot-tempered Thor naturally would not escape. He also rushed over, but when the two of them just confronted each other, Thor, who was invincible in the eyes of the Asgard warrior, was actually punched out and completely fell into a disadvantage. After knocking Thor away, the cursed warrior spit heavily at Soo-Mew and the other two, and made a provocative gesture of cutting his throat. He shouted loudly. A mere Thor and 2 cowardly mortals from Midgard are not worth mentioning at all. The dark elves behind him were in high spirits when they saw this, and they kept shouting loudly. Cursed warrior! Cursed warrior! Cursed warrior! Seeing the scene in front of him, Soo-Mew showed a gentle smile to the cursed warrior, and the terrifying red and black lightning in his other free hand suddenly erupted. Please read it again. Chapter 78 Instant Kill Curse Warrior, the Messenger of Death on the Battlefield. The spell reverses the folding space of Cang, leading Soo-Mew and Jane Foster to cross a distance of tens of meters and appear in front of the cursed warrior in an instant. A black-red singularity quickly formed in the palm of his hand, and then Soo-Mew quickly pressed it towards the face of the cursed warrior. Although they said they were just 2 cowardly Midgardians, when they saw Soo-Mew walking out of the portal, the curse warrior did not slack off. Although he did not know what special abilities Soo-Mew had, the curse warrior knew that Soo-Mew were definitely not mortals. At this time, Soo-Mew suddenly disappeared from the place and appeared in front of him. Although he was a little surprised, the cursed warrior reacted immediately and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Feeling the power in his body that is more powerful than Thor, he has absolute confidence that he can withstand the next blow from the Midgardians. After all, the Midgardians cannot be stronger than Thor, right? However, when his arm collided with the black-red singularity, his complexion immediately changed drastically. The cursed warrior was even more powerful than the Hulk at high anger, but when his hard arm just came into contact with the black-red singularity, it immediately shattered and was crushed into broken flesh and blood by the terrifying repulsion. Even after the terrifying black-red singularity destroyed his arm, its speed only dropped slightly, and then it rushed towards his head at extremely high speed. Danger! 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 The cursed warrior tried his best to move his head to the side, trying to avoid the terrifying black-red singularity, but even if he tried his best to avoid it, a small part of his head was still hit by the black-red singularity, and then the right half of his face was hit by the terrifying repulsion. The bottom completely shattered and turned into powder. Fortunately, because of the attack, he was also knocked away by the terrifying repulsion, and flew into the water under the Rainbow Bridge at high speed together with the black-red singularity, far away from the terrible Midgardian. Boom! The huge sound caused by the collision between the black-red singularity and the cursed warrior's body attracted the attention of everyone on the battlefield. All the Asgardian soldiers and Dark Elf soldiers who were fighting stopped their movements in tacit agreement and looked at the Rainbow Bridge together. The white-haired Midgardians. They were either dumbfounded, in disbelief, or slapped themselves thinking that everything today was just a dream. After all, are these really cowardly and primitive Midgardians? How could there be such a strong person among them? Ah! It was only then that Jane Foster, a mortal, realized that because So-Mu had to keep in contact with her and strip the reality gem from her body, she had never been separated from her. The spell he just used to reverse the teleportation of Cang even brought her with him. At this time, around her and So-Mu, there was the blood of the cursed warrior floating in the air. After So-Mu instantly defeated the cursed warrior, she, a mortal, knew what had just happened. As an ordinary person, Jane Foster immediately screamed when she experienced such a thing. So-Mu was a little impatient and used vector manipulation to control the vibration of Jane Foster's vocal cords, making her unable to speak. Then she looked to the side and saw that the cursed warrior jumped out of the water and fled away into the distance. Seeing this, So-Mu looked at the cursed warrior who had arrived several kilometers away, with a ferocious arc on his face. He stretched out his palm towards the cursed warrior, and the terrifying gravity was accurately acted on the cursed warrior. Just one blow made the cursed warrior understand the gap between him and So-Mu. He had just been almost killed by that terrifying Midgardian with one blow. No. Report to Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, immediately and evacuate immediately. With the help of such terrifying Midgardians, even if Odin is unable to exert his power, their plan will definitely fail. With the speed of the cursed warrior, he can advance hundreds of meters in one jump. He can reach Malekith in just 10 seconds and tell him the news. The Dark Elves must not perish in their generation. However, just as he rushed out of the sea and headed towards the depths of Asgard, he suddenly found that his body was pulled by a huge force. Instead of being able to move forward, he was moving backwards very quickly. He immediately turned around and looked behind him, his expression suddenly becoming desperate. I saw the white-haired Midgardian reaching out and holding it in vain, and a strong gravity was released from the Midgardian's palm, pulling him backwards. Even if his fingers tore the ground beneath his feet and even caused 2 deep scratches on the hard rainbow bridge, he still couldn't stop him from retreating. And as the gravity continued to increase, he was finally unable to withstand the unmatched gravity, and flew backwards. So he could only desperately use all his strength to attack the Midgardian, but before he could get closer, he saw an even more terrifying black-red singularity forming in his palm, and then suddenly attacked him fly over. This time he couldn't escape, he could only watch the black-red singularity approaching, desperately waiting for death. Boom! The terrifying repulsive force instantly crushed the body of the cursed warrior and continued to spread toward the rear. Under So-Mu's precise control, the black-red spheres continued to destroy the bodies of the Dark Elves one after another, then passed through the sea and disappeared into the void outside Asgard. Seeing So-Mu instantly killing the cursed warrior, Thor showed a shocked expression. It had been a while since he had seen So-Mu. Why had So-Mu's strength been so greatly improved? He remembered that although So-Mu was powerful before, he was not so powerful. As for the other Dark Elves who had not come into contact with So-Mu, or the warriors of Asgard, they could not believe it. In the previous battles, they already knew the power of the cursed warrior. He was even stronger than Thor, the god of thunder. However, such a powerful warrior was killed instantly by the Midgardians in front of him, and even his body could not be left. Ignoring the minions in front of him, So-Mu turned back and greeted Thor who had climbed up. "Come up quickly." Then he took Jane and stepped out into the battlefield. The current situation in Asgard seemed different from what he imagined. It seemed that the Dark Elves did not have only one cursed warrior, but there were 5 within the observation range of the 6 eyes. However, So-Mu was not surprised. After all, he had already known that the universe he was currently in was just a parallel universe that was very similar to the movie universe. According to the complexity of the Marvel world, he would not be surprised no matter what happened. Because the technique of Cang reached level 4, teleportation was no longer a miracle, but a real overlap of 2 spaces. Therefore, with So-Mu's protection, Jane Foster could also withstand the pressure of space jump. Su-mu repeatedly teleported on the battlefield like a phantom. He would use the spell to turn Cang to move long distances from time to time, or use the unlimited spell to move quickly at close range. Whenever he appeared in a position, all the dark elves within a radius of 5 meters were killed by the invisible space slash. Everyone had originally focused their attention on Su-mu. Seeing this horrifying scene, the dark elves could no longer bear the fear in their hearts. They shouted in despair. "No, he is a devil, a messenger of death, we can't defeat him. Run, run quickly, otherwise we will all be killed by him." P.S. Asgard, with the rainbow bridge in the middle. Please read on. Chapter 79 Malekith. All the dark elves were in absolute panic, ignoring their opponents and fleeing madly into the distance. But their speed was too slow in front of Su-mu, and they could not escape the hunting of the god of death. Su-mu kept flashing and harvesting the lives of the dark elves. In a short moment, he killed all the dark elves in his sight and sent them into the arms of the goddess of death. At this time, Thor, who kept using Mjolnir to hurry on his way, finally caught up with Su-mu and came to his side. Thor looked at the scene in front of him in shock. The attack that Asgard could hardly deal with was easily solved by Su-mu. Just when he wanted to thank Su-mu, he suddenly heard Su-mu say, "Stand still." Then he felt that the surrounding environment suddenly changed dramatically. Under the strong gravity, the space around Su-mu and the other two was folded and distorted with the space in the distance. When Thor came to his senses, he found that he was no longer on the rainbow bridge. In front of him was a familiar and gorgeous room, and his mother was being strangled by another cursed warrior. At this time, her face was flushed and she couldn't breathe. "Mother Goddess!" Seeing this scene, Thor immediately rushed up and swung Mjolnir to attack the cursed warrior, but when the powerful Mjolnir approached the cursed warrior, he was slapped aside by him. Following Mjolnir, Thor, who was punching the cursed warrior, was also punched away by another cursed warrior and embedded in the hard wall of the Asgard. "This is impossible." Seeing his beloved hammer being easily knocked away by the enemy in front of him, Thor's breathing stagnated, his body stiffened, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. In just one day, his hammer was blocked twice head-on. This has never happened in his 5,000 years of life. After Su-mu and the other two suddenly appeared, Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, immediately turned his head and stopped interrogating Felicia, but stared at Jane Foster standing next to Su-mu. P.S. Dark Elf Leader, Malekith. He looked at Jane Foster with intoxicated eyes, and murmured to himself, "Oh, Ether, you will come back on your own initiative, you belong to me." However, as he perceived it more deeply, he immediately found that the current state of Ether was not right, and its energy properties became more and more lazy. This was obviously not what the Dark Elves wanted to see. What they wanted was active Ether, a fluid reality gem, so that they could manipulate the power of the reality gem and plunge the 9 realms into absolute darkness. Malekith looked at Su-mu on the side, focusing his eyes on the palms of the two people who had been in contact all the time. It was from there that the ether particles began to become abnormally lazy, and even had a tendency to transform into solids. He stared at Su-mu and said to him with a ferocious face, "Human, no matter what you did, let it go." Seeing that Su-mu ignored him, Malekith pointed at Su-mu angrily and said, "Kill him for me, crush all his bones bit by bit, and then bring that human woman to me." Yes. There were 5 cursed warriors in total. One of them rushed towards Thor, grabbed his legs, threw him to the ground, and then kept swinging his fists to attack his face, beating him unconscious. The remaining 4 cursed warriors rushed towards Su-mu. Their eyes were bloodthirsty, and their armor emitted hot energy light. The Dark Elves did not take Su-mu seriously at all. In the entire Asgard, the only person they were afraid of was Odin, but Odin was old and could not easily take action. At this time, he was dragged by the Dark Elves who invaded other areas and could not arrive in time. They had already anticipated their victory. Malekith looked at So Mu with contempt. This damn human, even if this human had a little special power, was not taken seriously by him. Among humans, only the supreme mage of Camartage would make him afraid, and the others were just cowardly ants. Frigga saw this scene and immediately shouted to So Mu. "Young man, run away, notify Odin, and let him come to save us." But it was too late. The nearest curse warrior had already reached out to grab So Mu's neck, ready to completely control him, and then crush his bones bit by bit according to the leader's order. Boom! The sound of breaking the sound barrier suddenly sounded at this time, and a figure suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight, smashing the hard wall blessed by magic, and disappeared at the end of the field of vision. The sudden scene made everyone sluggish, and everyone stopped moving, looking at the seemingly cowardly earthlings in front of them in disbelief. The remaining black and red lightning on his feet hit the ground, leaving deep scratches. After kicking a curse warrior away, So Mu ignored the 3 promoted curse warriors and slowly walked towards Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves. "You mean, you want to crush my bones little by little? This is not a good idea to torture people. I have a better way. Do you want to try it?" Although the tone was asking, everyone heard the flavor of command from this sentence. "No. This is not an order, it seems to be a judgment. It is a condescending judgment. This earthling seems to treat the Dark Elves as nothing." After hearing So Mu's condescending words, Malekith came back to his senses from the shock, but although he looked solemn, he was still not panicked. The strength of the earthling in front of him obviously exceeded his imagination, and even exceeded his understanding of earthlings, but that was all. Under the joint siege of several cursed warriors, he didn't think that this earthling could win. "Go!" After receiving the order from Malekith, several cursed warriors attacked So Mu together. Boom! The terrifying fist broke through the speed of sound, and attacked So Mu with a piercing sonic boom. Because the cursed warriors who kept beating him also attacked So Mu, Thor got a breathing time. He came to Felicia, protected her behind him, and then looked at So Mu worriedly. The strength of each cursed warrior far exceeded him. If he was besieged by 4 cursed warriors, he couldn't even resist a wave of attacks and would be beaten to death. Even if So Mu was also stronger than him, he didn't think So Mu could win this battle. His only hope for So Mu was to hold on until his father arrived. This was their only chance to win. But Thor is just a hammer god. He has not yet awakened and cannot sense the gap between So Mu and it. In his cognition, So Mu can resist Mjolnir, and the Curse Warrior can also block Mjolnir. Even if So Mu is stronger than the Curse Warrior, he is also limited and cannot be the opponent of several Curse Warriors. However, in fact, the strength of the two is not at the same level at all. The attack of the Curse Warrior is within 5 meters of So Mu, and then it cannot move forward. They keep attacking So Mu, but they can't get close to him at all. Instead, So Mu suddenly disappeared from the spot, came to a Curse Warrior, stretched out his finger and touched his forehead. The vector operation and repulsion worked together, and the hard head of the Curse Warrior exploded in an instant, breaking like an ordinary watermelon. Please read it again. Chapter 80, Crush the Black Hole with One Hand. The sudden reversal slowed down the movements of all the Cursed Warriors. Why did this Midgardian easily kill their companions with just one finger? The Cursed Warriors subconsciously slowed down their movements, but So Mu would not. He took another step forward, came to another Cursed Warrior, stretched out his free hand to pinch his cheek. The next moment, black and red lightning suddenly broke out between the two, and the Cursed Warrior's head immediately shattered, and another Cursed Warrior died in an instant. The remaining 2 Cursed Warriors immediately reacted and realized that the Midgardian in front of them was not the cowardly human they originally thought, but a terrible monster. Can they win? Guaranteed to lose. Instantly killing a Cursed Warrior, this absolute strength suppression also means that they are not the opponent of this Midgardian. With such a terrifying strength suppression, they even doubted whether Odin could do this. Based on their strong combat intuition, they immediately used the best way to deal with it. A cursed warrior immediately ran back, grabbed Malekith, smashed the wall and rushed towards the spaceship in the distance. The other cursed warrior was the last one to throw the black hole grenade on his waist towards Su-mu. The black hole grenade is an extreme technological creation of the Dark Elves, with extremely powerful lethality. After the black hole grenade explodes, a temporary terrifying black hole will be generated with the explosion point as the center. This black hole will devour everything around it and attract everything within the gravitational range into it. It is so powerful that even the cursed warrior who can easily defeat Thor cannot survive in the terrifying black hole. The black hole grenade is the most powerful weapon of the Dark Elves besides the ether particles. He believes that as long as the black hole grenade explodes around this Midgardian, even if it cannot kill him, he can seriously injure him. But the most difficult thing now is how to detonate this grenade around this Midgardian. After a brief thought, he gritted his teeth and rushed directly towards the terrifying Midgardian. Now I just hope that the special space defense of this terrifying Midgardian just now cannot be used for a long time, otherwise even if the black hole grenade explodes 5 meters away from him, it can only cause him minor injuries. When he was 5 meters away from the Midgardians, the Curse Warrior was extremely nervous. Whether he would succeed depended on this moment. The next moment, he broke through the 5-meter field that was out of reach before and entered the 5-meter range of the Midgardians, which made the Curse Warrior look ecstatic. Sure enough, the almost unsolvable defense just now could not last at all. The Curse Warrior suddenly pounced on Su-mu, stretched out his arm and detonated the black hole grenade in his palm at close range around Su-mu. The twisted force field suddenly erupted from the place where the black hole grenade exploded, instantly tearing the arms of the Curse Warrior. In the face of death, the Curse Warrior did not show fear, but showed a crazy excitement, waiting for the powerful enemy in front of him to die with him. Sacrificing him alone to clear the way for the Dark Elves to enter the 9 realms together, this sacrifice is undoubtedly the supreme honor. Looking at the Curse Warrior in front of him, his face showed an extremely crazy joy. If it were not for the confirmation that there was no crazy fire in the Marvel world, Su-mu would have thought that the Dark Elves were burned by the crazy fire. However, he immediately transferred his perception from the Curse Warrior to the black hole that was gradually spreading in front of him. Because of the powerful reaction ability given by the LV-4 Six Eyes, Su-mu's concept of time is different from that of ordinary people. He can adjust his perception of the speed of time at will. In normal times, his perception of the speed of time is almost the same as that of ordinary people, but when he encounters danger, the objects around him will pause, and the strong nerve reflex makes him see the world around him as if it is still. This is originally the exclusive ability of the Speedster, but after the Six Eyes were upgraded to LV-4, Su-mu naturally obtained it. This is also the reason why he can easily kill Quicksilver. At this time, the black hole continued to expand in front of it until it swallowed the arms of the Cursed Warrior, and the powerful gravity was about to spread to the surroundings. If he stood here alone, then even if the power of the black hole increased tenfold, it would not affect him at all. The terrifying gravity would be offset by the repulsive force and turned into nothingness. But at this time, there are still Thor and others around, and even Jane who is possessed by ether particles. They can't bear this force. Not only because he received the reward, he must protect the safety of Thor and others, but also because of Jane who is possessed by ether particles. Will her death cause the ether particles to run wild? This is a problem. This is also the reason why Su-mu temporarily closed the limitless limit and let the Cursed Warrior get close. So he stretched out his hand, and the vector manipulation and energy absorption worked together on the terrifying black hole in front of him. The level 1 vector manipulation obviously cannot completely offset the huge energy generated by the black hole, but its effect makes it easier for energy absorption to absorb the energy bursting from the black hole. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. The black hole shrank visibly with the naked eye. Everything was done in the blink of an eye. In the eyes of others, it was So-mu who stretched out his hand, and then the terrifying black hole was compressed. The black hole and So-mu's palm kept colliding, and black and red lightning kept bursting out from the palm, shattering the surrounding ground. Finally, under the incredulous eyes of the cursed warriors, and the astonished gazes of Thor and others, accompanied by the continuous flashes of black and red lightning, the terrifying black hole was crushed by So-mu with one hand, and it could not affect him at all. You. Seeing this, the cursed warrior was incoherent because of excessive shock. Not only did the black hole grenade fail to affect the Midgardians in front of him, but it was easily annihilated by his one hand. This was undoubtedly beyond his cognition. The Six Eyes observed that Malekith was approaching the Dark Elf's spaceship. If he didn't catch up, he might really let them escape. So So-mu smiled brightly at the cursed warrior in front of him, and the black and red singularity formed in an instant, instantly annihilating the cursed warrior in front of him. The black and red singularity continued to move forward, and flew very quickly to the broken wall hole, just hitting the first cursed warrior who was kicked away by So-mu and returned from a very far distance, killing him just as easily. After dealing with the two cursed warriors, So-mu took a step forward and came to the edge of Asgard. The huge dark elf warship was slowly disappearing. He grinned and blocked the mouth of Jane, who was constantly shouting because she was floating in the air, and then made a pre-seal. Virtual style. The azure black hole and the black and red singularity were quickly generated, and then merged to form a purple illusion mass that continuously released lightning. Control the illusion mass to deform and form a long sword hundreds of meters long. So-mu swung the long sword suddenly, and the long sword condensed by the illusion mass cut the dark elf warship in half without any resistance, dividing it into two parts. This slash just cut off the heads of the two promoted cursed warriors, and Malekith was not injured at all because of his height. So he could only watch in despair as So-mu took a step forward, came to him, and smiled at him gently. Let me tell you what the most cruel torture is.